He's being kind of crazy with it. What's up, chat? What's up, everybody? Welcome to the second live stream of the night. Happy Thanksgiving Eve. Still Thanksgiving Eve. We got 11:48, so it's almost Thanksgiving Day. Shout out to everybody. Guys, as you come in, hit that like button for me. It does a ton for the channel. It does a ton for the chat. It does a ton for the algorithm. Say what's up so we can communicate with you, so other people can communicate with you in the chat. Nothing gets you banned here. Nothing gets you censored. If my AI bot does it, if my AI mod does it, I can't override it. So don't write in caps. Don't write long paragraphs. Don't write long sentences and things like that, because then you'll flag it automatically. I can't override it. If YouTube hides your message, I can show it. And I usually do show it. So you guys just be respectful in the chat. Keep it cordial. Keep it respectful. Keep it short. And we're going to jump into some news. So Thanksgiving Eve shootout in DC, right? I was like, oh boy. I said that I wanted to start doing late night news because I could react to just a little bit different news. You know, the crowd's a little bit different at night than it is during the day. For the most part, I still get a crowd that wants to see what's going on. IRL, events on the news, what's happening, politics. But different people show up at night. They like to see different things. So I always say at night we could be ratchet and real. But I want to jump into some of this DC shooting news just because it happened on Thanksgiving Eve. That sucks. I'm not happy about that. But because it happened in the Capitol, I want to take a look at it. I thought it was interesting. Some people chimed in and said that they think that a lot of the reason why it's probably happening is because of the presence of the National Guard in DC, which I thought that was kind of crazy. But we're going to jump into some of that news first. So let's go ahead, jump into the first clip. Remember, guys, hit that like button, say what's up. I appreciate everybody stopping by, supporting the channel, supporting what we do over here. All right, let's jump right in.
What's so special about Domino's specialty pizzas? Your taste buds will know. Trust me, they'll know.
I've never been one to sit back and hope for a good outcome. I want answers, not when I can roll up my sleeve.
The two guardsmen who were shot today were part of the deployment to the nation's capital intended to make the district safer. That action, as you heard, by President Trump has sparked massive controversy in some corners. Chief National Security Correspondent Jennifer Griffin has the latest on that tonight. Good evening, Jennifer.
Good evening, Brett. President Trump ordered the National Guard mobilized in Washington, D.C. on August 11th against the wishes of D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser. Given D.C.'s unusual status and not being a state, the D.C. National Guard, when mobilized, is operationally under the control of the Army Secretary, who is, this case, is Dan Driscoll, who is fresh off a grueling week of shuttle diplomacy to Ukraine, Geneva, and Abu Dhabi. Those shot today were members of the West Virginia National Guard. In August, 300 Guard from West Virginia deployed to Washington, D.C. 160 volunteered to extend their deployment and remain in D.C. until the end of the year. The rest of their unit returned home over a week ago. Governor Patrick Morrisey of West Virginia praised the two soldiers, adding West Virginia would never forget their service and sacrifice. As of Wednesday morning, there were about 2,200 National Guard troops deployed in Washington, D.C., about 1,300 from Louisiana, Mississippi, Ohio, South Carolina, West Virginia, Georgia, and Alabama. There have been 62 homicides in Washington since May 25th. As of October 28th, the city has seen 123 homicides so far in 2025, down 30% from a year ago. Since National Guard troops were deployed on August 11th, there have been 24 homicides in Washington, D.C., not including today's shooting. On November 2nd, the Trump administration extended the orders for the National Guard mission to the nation's capital through at least February 2026.
Now, because DC is the nation's capital, it makes sense that the president would do all of this. You guys, some of you who aren't real familiar with DC might see some of those statistics, especially some of those of you who don't live in the U.S. and you watch me. And you might say, well, those numbers still look high. Well, they're not. If you know anything about DC, those numbers are relatively low. And this is why so many people in DC were happy when President Trump did what he did. Now, I'm not talking about people who don't live there and just wanted to be mad and complain about DC. I'm talking about the residents there. and plenty of them were black residents that went on record to say, man, thank you, President Trump. We could actually walk through the streets. Man, you had black guys getting on there talking about, I could actually wear my jewelry and I'm not getting robbed. Like, and if you try to rob me, I'm going to scream so these National Guardsmen could come help me. So, you know, we see a lot of improvement there. I hate that this had to happen on Thanksgiving Eve, especially to these two people. I'm thinking about their families more than I'm thinking about anything else. So that just really sucks. And I know it's going to shake everyone up, but from what I understand, post this happening, President Trump now has called an emergency stay for the National Guard to stay in D.C. I don't know if it's longer or if he's requesting more presence. It was already a good amount of them there. But I know now, because this has happened, it's not like he's pulling them out or anything. If anything, he's made an emergency response to what took place today. So let's keep watching.
But last Thursday, a federal judge, D.C. District Judge Gia Cobb, ruled that President Trump's military takeover of Washington, D.C. was illegal and intrudes on local officials' authority to direct law enforcement. Cobb, who was appointed by President Biden, found that the president has the right to protect federal property, but can't unilaterally deploy the D.C. National Guard to fight crime. The judge's order, Brett, which was welcomed last week by D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser and other D.C. elected representatives, was stayed pending appeal until December 11th. The cost to deploy the National Guard in the Capitol since August is estimated as being more than $250 million for the past 3.5 months. Brett?
Jennifer, thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to...
Hey, you have some people that'll hear that number and they're going to say, look at that. Look at what President Trump is doing. He's wasting money, but it's the nation's capital. So I honestly can't say that I agree with that. I don't think it's a waste of money to do what he's doing. It's our nation's capital. You know, it matters. When we go to other countries and we visit where the world leader for that country is at, we don't go to places that are impoverished or where the world leader is surrounded around violence or, you know, they're being shot at. They don't experience those things in other countries. So President Trump really felt like a duty to secure D.C. I'm not going to say I agree with everything that he does. I don't agree with everything any president does. But I was able to kind of take a step back and say, okay, I'm looking at what he's securing. Yes, he's secured more than D.C., so I know some people are going to argue that. But why he's doing it. And at the end of the day, he doesn't like when people come into his house. Now we're talking about visitors from other countries, right? And it just doesn't look up to par. I think it's very obvious that President Trump kind of operates like that. So let's move on to the next clip because it's still concerning the D.C. shooting.
Guys, got hair loss? I know what you're thinking. Should I shave my head? Comb it over?
A developing story out of our nation's capital. That's where two members of the National Guard were shot in an alleged targeted attack just blocks away from the White House. This is the 10 o'clock news. I'm Jason Martinez.
I'm Sheba Russell. It was a brazen act of violence in Washington, D.C., just a day before the country celebrates Thanksgiving. And here's what we know so far. Metro police say they believe the shots were fired around 2:15 this afternoon near the Farragut West Metro station at the corner of 17th and I Street Northwest. Two National Guard members from West Virginia were struck by gunfire. At last check, both are in critical condition.
And the shooter is also shot and is now in custody. That shooter is reported to be an Afghan national, identified by Fox News by sources as 29-year-old Ranmala Lakanwul, who entered the U.S. in 2021 and had been living in Washington State. Fox's Caroline Shively joins us from Washington, D.C.
And Caroline, you've been on the scene for several hours now. What can you tell us tonight?
Good evening, Jason and Sheba. I can tell you that this accused shooter did indeed enter the United States in 2021 under something called a humanitarian parole program. However, he did have a visa at the time, but he overstayed that visa, which expired in September.
Heard boom, boom, 2 times.
Witnesses describe it as a chaotic scene. The moment 2 National Guard members were shot while out patrolling D.C.'s Farragut Square area.
We heard gunshots, so we ran about 4 or 5 storefronts down I Street. Then we kind of thought maybe it was construction. Then we heard another round of gunshots.
Police say the suspect is now in custody, injured while exchanging gunfire with other National Guard members.
It appears, like I said, to be a lone gunman that raised a firearm and ambushed these members of the National Guard, and he was quickly taken into custody by other National Guard members.
While police have ruled out other suspects, a motive is still unclear. The FBI is taking the lead in investigating this as a possible act of international terrorism.
We are in the preliminary stages of this investigation. We will run down every single lead, every piece of evidence.
In a social media post, President Trump warned the suspect will, quote, pay a very steep price. Hours later, he requested the Pentagon send an additional 500 Guard members to the D.C. area. There are already 2,200 across the city, even though their presence has been contentious, fueling court fights and debate over the military being deployed to major cities. The Guard has been in D.C. since August. Last Thursday, a federal judge said that deployment was illegal and ordered it.
So that's actually a big deal, because her bringing up that their presence has been contentious. It has been, and some people were saying, well, this is why, the 2 guardsmen got shot. People are upset that they're there and they're in D.C. Listen, I don't think that that's a good reason. I think that that's stupid to even bring up. There's never a good reason as to why someone got shot. I mean, unless they're walking around on a mass killing spree, killing people, I don't think there's a good reason for that. But at the end of the day, there is something to be said about the residents that live there, and the residents themselves haven't been that unhappy about that. You don't see the residents themselves doing that, which I thought at the beginning of all of this was most interesting, because I said, listen, if you don't live there, then you don't have any right, to be upset about something like this. This would be like if violence was running rampant in the Bronx right now, which it probably is, and I was still living there, and President Trump decided to do what he did with the National Guard to the Bronx. Well, if I'm the one living there every day and I'm experiencing that my car is being broken into, I can't walk in the streets without almost getting jumped or almost getting robbed, well then yeah, I'm probably going to be more grateful for what President Trump is doing than someone who's outside of New York, and to them it looks like some type of takeover, right? All right, let's keep watching.
Stop. However, that is under hold during... The Guard has been in D.C. since August. Last Thursday, a federal judge said that deployment was illegal and ordered it stop. However, that is under hold during the appeals process. The Trump administration filed that appeal this afternoon. Jason and Sheba, back to you.
All right, Caroline Shively, thank you very much. And tonight, President Donald Trump is calling for a reinvestigation of all Afghan refugees who came in under former President Joe Biden's administration. He spoke out just moments ago.
The Department of Homeland Security is confident that the suspect in custody is a foreigner who entered our country from Afghanistan, a hellhole on earth. He was flown in by the Biden administration in September 2021 on those infamous flights that everybody was talking about. Nobody knew who was coming in. Nobody knew anything about it. His status was extended under legislation signed by President Biden.
Say that.
Tonight, investigators believe the suspect acted alone.
On a vacation rental, if it's not listed on Booking.com, it's invisible to millions of travelers.
Then boom, boom.
So I guess it was important for them to notate that the person is from Afghanistan. You guys know that, right? Because that's the only way that, the administration could say, you see, it's an illegal person and they came in under Biden. Which, I mean, are they completely wrong? It's insane. I mean, 2 National Guardsmen getting shot. I'm not for any law enforcement officer getting shot, but definitely any military person. Like, that just is disappointing to me, because they're not there, to mess with the citizens. They're not there to bother people. They're there to secure the place and make sure that people can move about in a safe manner. And for something like that, for them to just be attacked doing their job, and it's on Thanksgiving Eve, that just sucks. So we're going to move over to the next clip. We'll watch a couple minutes of this clip and then jump over to the next one. So I watched a couple of people cover this. Everyone didn't say that the suspects got shot back at. Do you guys know that for a fact? I'm going to run that back because I want to see something.
near the White.
I mean, I didn't see many people say much about a terroristic threat. Obviously, I would look at it like that if they shot 2 National Guardsmen. But I guess my question is, what do you guys think it would have been like if the Guardsmen weren't there? So do you think it would have would have been a mass shooting of civilians, or do you think that the person purposely, because they say now it was illegal from the Biden administration, led in under Biden, the person purposely went after the National Guardsmen? Let's keep watching. I think it's a fair question. A few people were asking, how was this person even able to do this if the National Guard was already in place? I think that's a fair question to ask. I think what it leaves room for is for people to say how much are they actually securing what they're supposed to be securing, right? Not only was someone able to infiltrate wherever they were able to get into, but 2 people were actually able to get shot. So it's not like they put 2 bullets into a large crowd or a crowd and they missed, but they put 2 bullets out on 2 people and it actually hit, right? So it's like, was it going to be a mass shooting? Was it specifically targeted at government employees? What was this? Then this is where I think it's a little bit confusing with mainstream media. Well, it's always confusing with mainstream media, but they're just not being transparent about that, right? Like, what was this a terrorist attack? Was this supposed to be a mass shooting and the National Guardsmen were in the way? Like, what exactly was this? So we'll keep watching. Is with great sorrow that we can. And this was from the governor. So the governor put that out. Like, I had heard this conflicting news. That's crazy that the governor put it out. I could see if it was someone underneath the governor, but someone that high up, huh? He puts it out. So he has the information that they're dead, but then all of a sudden they come back and they're like, oh no, they're not dead. This was conflicting information. Okay.
Died, then doubled back 20 minutes later, saying he was...
We're now receiving conflicting reports about the condition of our community. So that sucks. He's obviously hurt, but he's not in critical condition the way the 2 guardsmen are. Critical condition on Thanksgiving Eve. Like, family members are just distraught, right? This is how they're going to spend their Thanksgiving, right? Obviously, they're probably still going to eat, but thinking about their family member that has been shot and is in the hospital. And then the shooter, of course, the shooter is not he's not as in much pain or as hurt as the people he tried to wound. Of course not. It wouldn't work out like that.
Yeah, the Department of Home.
Right, and this is when there was just that large flood of people kind of coming. You guys remember that, especially in the Dulles airport, and it's just like they all. To the residents, it seemed as if the area was being flooded. I remember at some point some people saying it to that effect, like it almost seemed like they were being flooded with people. But now we look at this happening, and now with this person being from Afghanistan and they shot 2 guardsmen, it just makes me wonder if President Trump is going to do the same thing, possibly to the people who are from Afghanistan, maybe who have come in the last couple of years, because I don't think he could do it exactly the same way he did with people from Somalia. But it makes me wonder if he's going to do the same thing, right? I think he removed TPS, temporary protective status, from the Somali citizens that are here in the United States. So now it makes me wonder if he's going to do the same thing for the people in the United States who are from Afghanistan, just simply because 2 government officials were shot. They were wounded.
Drivers pay the most for car insurance out of any state in the country. As we all know from the recent...
I feel bad for those residents. I wanted to cover that video simply because I knew that one had more of the victims, more of the witnesses' reactions. And they also saw some of the victims. That's why they said, I saw 1 guardsman laying on the ground on his side. I'm thinking, like, sometimes we really discount trauma, right? And how the effect of trauma can be magnified around holidays. So now these people are going to be sitting around the table at Thanksgiving, and something they just witnessed that they didn't see a day ago, now it's going to be a part of, like, the running theme in their head or what they're thinking about around the table. No one's going to forget something like that. Like, if you've ever been around gunfire or someone being shot, seeing someone die in critical condition, it's a pretty traumatizing event, right? It's not like you just kind of walk away from it and it's like, oh, I didn't see anything. Unless, of course, you do something like you dissociate from the event. Then you might not remember much of it. All right, let's move on to the next clip, guys.
Straight Shooter with Stephen A.
All right, so you guys can actually go to Stephen A. Smith's channel and watch the whole podcast in its entirety. I think it's an hour and 23 minutes or about an hour and a half. This is about 22 minutes where he's talking about the shooting in D.C. specifically that took place today.
Welcome to the latest edition of Straight Shooter with yours truly, one and only Stephen A. Smith, coming at you as I love to do every Wednesday night from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over the airwaves of Sirius XM, POTUS Radio, Channel 124. Number to call as always is 866-96-POTUS. That's 866-96-POTUS. 866-967-6887 is the number to call up. I'm wishing everybody, as we sit here on Thanksgiving Eve, a very wonderful Thanksgiving. Needless to say that tonight, however, that doesn't apply. Maybe we'll find a way to be happy tomorrow. Maybe we'll find a way to get better news tomorrow. But as of right now, the news permeating the airwaves, on radio, on television, etc., is that 2 members of the National Guard have been shot and are in critical condition in the nation's capital. They were shot in the nation's capital. They are in critical condition. They are not dead, as Governor of West Virginia, Patrick Morrisey, initially tweeted about on X. They have not died, but they are certainly in serious condition after being shot, ambushed by a lone gunman. That's the situation right now, and a lot of people are being it, and people are calling it something associated.
I don't see a lot of people talking about this, but here's what I want to know. Is the governor going to get in trouble? Because can you just tweet 2 people died in the National Guard, and then you're like, oh, no, I got conflicting information. Psych, that didn't really happen. Like, is he going to get reprimanded in any way? Like, how does this work? Does he get written up? Like, this is what I want to know, because we can't just be at work, right, and just be like, oh, you know, let's say you work in a lab or a warehouse or a construction site, and you run to your boss and you're like, hey, there's a guy over here that's dead, right? And now your boss is running over there with you to check on the guy, and you're like, oh, okay, my fault. He looked dead, but he's not. Like what? How does that work? Do you get written up? Like, do you get a verbal warning? Like, how does that actually work? The governor.
With politics, they're saying it's political or what have you. We don't know for sure, and we're certainly not going to act like we do definitively. But there is no questioning that this has happened. There's no questioning that it was in the nation's capital, just a few blocks away from the White House. President Donald Trump is in Florida for the holidays, so he was not at the White House. But nevertheless, obviously, he's had some things to say about this, and there are people that are involved, and this situation is taking on a life of its own. Reading directly from the Wall Street Journal, as the headline states, a lone gunman ambushed 2 National Guard members in D.C. Police say the pair are in critical condition, according to the FBI. A suspect was shot and is in custody. A quote from Metropolitan Police Executive Assistant Chief Jeffrey Carroll says it appears to be a lone gunman that raised a firearm and ambushed these members of the National Guard. For those of you who may not remember, some 2,200 National Guard members were deployed in the nation's capital, including 925 members of the D.C. forces and more than 1,200 members from other states. The district's elected attorney general had sued over their presence, which was ordered by President Trump as part of an effort his administration dubbed Make D.C. Safe and Beautiful. That's what it is. It's a bigger story going on. And it's not to imply that this story isn't serious and this story isn't large, and that the officers and that the lives of 2 National Guardsmen don't matter, because obviously we're praying for their full and healthy recovery. But it is important to pay attention to what's going on in the climate that exists and what's been going on in the days leading up to the shooting that took place today. If you recall, there was a video that was put out. And again, I'm talking both sides. This is what I mean when I say I don't like none of their asses. None of them. Either side. I'm not getting in to specific individuals. I'm just talking about both sides of the aisle and how they've served to divide us as a nation. Because the constant rhetoric, the constant vitriol, that's in a toxic language that is thrown and bandied about by both sides, ends up inciting, in my opinion, and it's just an opinion, but damn it, I think it's an educated one, inciting the ire of American citizens out here. Now, I'm one of those big dudes. I'm an adult. regardless of the language that is spewed, regardless of the rhetoric that we listen to, regardless of that stuff, at the end of the day, you're an adult and you are responsible for your own actions. So this individual that shot the 2 National Guardsmen, okay, I hope he survives. I hope he stands trial. I hope his ass is thrown in jail for the next few decades. Okay, that's attempted murder at the very least because they're alive. It's attempted murder. There's no place for that. No place for that in our society. Zero. So there's no sympathy for that gunman whatsoever. But
and you have people that are going to say Stephen A. is taking it easy on them. Some people are going to say, nope, an eye for an eye. It was attempted murder. They could have died. This person needs the death penalty because they are government officials. You have some people that are just going to flat out say that. You guys know that. Whether you agree with the death penalty or not, you have people that are going to think like that. Stephen A. says he hopes the guy lives and he stands trial and he gets thrown in jail for the rest of his life. Everyone's not going to share that opinion.
Doesn't mean that we sit back and we ignore the kind of nonsense that has been transpiring. We've seen it on both sides of the aisle. We saw President Trump getting into it with Marjorie Taylor Greene. We saw the rhetoric that was bandied back and forth when the shutdown was going on and how one side was accusing the other of not caring enough about American citizens when they weren't getting checks and they was having travel nightmares and they had to go to work but weren't getting paid. And how folks didn't care. Then we heard about the whole SNAP program and how 42 million plus people were on food stamps. And then we heard elected officials being accused of not caring if people starved. When you see this kind of stuff, when you act this way, and when you exercising a dereliction of duty because you're not on point and you're not at work and you're not exhausting every means necessary to do everything you can to alleviate problems that permeate in our society so they don't exist. So we don't have this kind of ruckus. So we don't have this kind of uproar. Maybe stuff like this doesn't happen.
Okay, so is it fair to say that Stephen A. is saying this happened amid the shutdown? Is it fair to say that? Because he's literally saying, I mean, dare I say that he's charging the Republican Party with dereliction of duty? He literally said, when you're not there, when you don't show up, when you don't solve the problems of the American people, stuff like this happens. Maybe things like this would. I mean, do we agree with Stephen A. Smith right now with what he's saying? Could it just be that you got a bunch of American citizens or a bunch of citizens that are American and non-American that are just pissed off? And now, like, this was the result. This was the end result of some of that. None of that is okay. No one's condoning that. But do we agree with what Stephen A. is saying right now? Or do we think he's just talking like Stephen A. does?
Always crazies out there. There's always somebody willing to commit a crime. I get that part. I understand it. And we can't definitively blame politicians. But damn it, they don't make it. They don't make it hard to blame them. They don't make it hard to blame them. So let's lock in and zero in on some of the stuff that's just been happening a couple of days ago alone. Did you see the video? I'm going to ask y'all again. Did you see the video? A video by these 6 elected officials. Senator Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan. Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona. Representative Maggie Goodlander of New Hampshire. Representative Jason Crow of Colorado. And Representatives Chris DeLuzio and Chrissy Houlihan of Pennsylvania. Those are the Democratic lawmakers who are now under FBI inquiry because they made a video essentially encouraging military folks to ignore orders they deemed illegal handed down by the commander-in-chief, who is known as President Donald Trump.
Now, I asked this question in an earlier live stream today. I said, what do we think about this? Because I had a couple of vets in there with me, myself being a vet. And I said, what do we think about this? Because asking a vet or active duty person that has taken an oath to the Constitution, should they not follow an order, is a hard thing. I'm going to just tell you guys that right now. If you're not surrounded around vets, ask one if you know one. It's a hard thing. We take orders seriously, right? But what happens when it's a illegal order or it's an unlawful order? You'll have some people say that they follow them, and then what usually follows is that the service member gets charged with a war crime. So that's usually the end result. No one wants that, but I'm just trying to tell you, as someone who's actually served in the military, for those of you who haven't, you might be thinking, well, Doug Q, this is easy. You just kind of don't follow it. And I would say, yeah, but at the same time, it's a big deal when someone is taking an oath to the Constitution and someone's giving them an order. Let's just put it like that. So you guys have talks with veterans, and you'll understand what I'm saying, because they might go a little bit more in depth with you. I feel it's more challenging, if anything, as a Christian, because I know if I'm giving an order that causes me to go against God, that's not challenging. That's just something I should not do. Right? So then someone might say, okay, well, obviously, then if God wants you to follow the law of the land, if you get an order that's unlawful, you shouldn't follow it. I would say, yeah, but it's still tricky, right? Because what are we talking about, right? Are you lying? I said it earlier today. I said, are we lining up, like 5 civilians from this country that we're in, and you're asking me to like blow all 5 of their heads off just because you don't like this group of people? Like, what exactly are we talking about? Because there's probably going to be a war crime that follows that. So, yeah, if there are any vets in the chat, or if you guys know any vets, how do you think they would take to not following an order because it's illegal? Or do you even know a vet or a service member that would do that?
Needless to say, Trump was not going to take that lying down. So naturally, he had something to say about that on his Truth Social platforms. I got 3 of them to read to y'all right now so you know what he's saying. President of the United States, Donald Trump, November 20th, 2025, writes, it's called seditious behavior at the highest level. Each one of these traitors to our country should be arrested and put on trial. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. We won't have a country anymore. An example must be set. President DJT. That wasn't his only tweet or post on Truth Social. Then he comes back, seditious behavior, all caps, punishable by, and the word death in caps. He had one more that he posted. Here it is. The traitors that told the military to disobey my orders should be in jail right now, not roaming the fake news networks trying to explain that what they said was okay. It wasn't, and never will be. It was sedition at the highest level. And sedition is a major crime. There can be no other interpretation of what they said. Respectfully, hold on, Mr. President. That's not entirely true. You could have said seditious language, and you may have had a point, particularly when it comes to what we saw on video from Senator Mark Kelly. I don't know if we have that video right now, but I'd like to see it if we did. My point is, you could have said seditious language. You could have said that was irresponsible. You could have said, how dare you give such a directive to our military men and women who serve under my command because I'm the commander-in-chief. You could have said that and stopped right there. Traitorous, punishable by death. That's a bit extreme, Mr. President. Highly irresponsible on your part, I might add. Definitely hyperbolic, beyond the realms of embellishment, and dare I say, irresponsible on your part to be coming out with such rhetoric like that. You're calling for a United States senator to be seen as a traitor, to be arrested.
I'm telling you guys right now, most of you probably know, a lot of people are pissed off about what's going on with Senator Kelly. They don't agree with it. I talked about this earlier in the first live stream. I don't think everything that's happening is fair. I don't think that you should take someone's pension, what they've worked for all their life, for a moment in time, right? I'm not exactly sure what the problem is here. I know Senator Kelly is saying that he just recited the UCMJ. For those of you that don't know what that is, that stands for the Uniform Code of Military Justice. He's saying, hey, listen, we just recited this and that's all we did. right? President Trump is saying he doesn't like the verbiage. He doesn't like the word choice. They should be viewed as traitors and thrown in jail. That's a bit overzealous, but we know that President Trump, he does this, right? Like, do we think this? Do we think that the senators and the list of people that Stephen A. listed should be viewed as traitors and thrown in jail? Do we agree with President Trump? This is what I mean by even people who have voted for President Trump already think like, hey, he's high and to the left. Like, they don't agree with everything that he's doing. As a matter of fact, a lot of the stuff that he's doing, he's gotten a lot of complaints about from people who have also voted for him. So do we agree with this? The man worked for his pension his whole life, right? You don't like what he said. You don't like what he tweeted. You don't like that. I get it. But he's not going up to any troops right now and giving them an order to say, hey, if you get this, then I command you to disobey this. That's not what's happening. So I think this is a bit overzealous. A loss of pension is a bit much, I think. I'm not even sure if the guy deserves a reprimand. He's not saying that everyone do this, and it's not like even a lot of people are going to listen to him. I'm just being honest with you guys. Many people on active duty, this is why I say talk to veterans in your life. If you have veterans in your life, a lot of them, if they're given a direct order, they're not going to think twice about it. Now, I have firsthand experience with this. And if you say, well, why wouldn't they think twice about it? Are you guys brainwashed or robots? It's not that. I'm just trying to tell you, when there's an oath given to a constitution and you're a service member, you're thinking with a different brain. So just have a conversation with a veteran.
You're accusing them of an act of treason, punishable by death, and you think that helps. Before I go any further, I'd like my team to put up on the screen the credentials of this particular senator who called for Trump's orders to be ignored. I would like to remind you that this is a retired United States Navy combat pilot who served our country with honor and distinction. I'd like to remind the president this is a NASA astronaut.
So these credentials that Stephen A. is listing, you guys might not think so, but this is actually a big deal. Shout out to Lori. Lori said this in the chat. Lori said, just remember that when it comes to I was following orders, that's not a good defense when it comes to war crimes. I'm probably paraphrasing a little bit, but absolutely right? And this is why I say that. I point that out because of his credentials. Mark Kelly, he is a retired combat pilot, right? Now, I'm not saying shout out to all the pilots, but a combat pilot is a little bit different. You have to be very decisive, right? Quick on your feet. You have to understand what your target is, and you have to be sure that you're aiming at your target, right? You don't have time to be a little bit off-centered. You don't have time to miss. You don't have time to make mistakes. You got to be very quick on your feet. I would say even more than the average service member, right? So coming from this person, right? That's why he said, we're just quoting the UCMJ. Coming from a person like this, and they're saying, hey, if you get a legal order, you should not follow that. I don't know if that should be completely ignored. And I'm saying that to you as someone who not just was a service member, but who was also a Marine, also a person who saw some time overseas. That this is something that we got to think about who it's coming from. If this was coming from a person who had never served in the military, also who has no combat experience, that's a big thing because it's different in combat. There are things that are considered war crimes that you guys might not think would be considered a war crime. So the fact that this is a combat pilot, I think it's a big deal in what he's saying. And that's why I think going after his pension, I just think it's out of line. I want to say it's overzealous, but it doesn't seem to be fitting because I really do think it's out of line. I'm not really sure why there's such a workup about this. I don't see a lot of people on the right or even the Republican side, far right either, like agreeing with Trump when it comes to this. I don't see many people agreeing with this. I see a lot of people saying it's kind of a disgrace on what's happening with Senator Kelly. So you guys tell me what you think about it, but I do think that they're a bit out of line for this. The guy's a ex-combat pilot. Like, he knows what he's talking about. He's not just a pilot who was out there just riding people around, you know what I mean, or like on Air Force One or something like that. And shout out to all the pilots, but like I said, being a combat pilot is a very different thing.
Not to mention a sitting United States senator in the United States of America. That's what you just said. Respectfully, Mr. President, Mark Kelly served this country with distinction. You didn't. Not as a military official. I forgot what it was that Westmore joked about when it came to you, the governor of Maryland, and what rationale you used to avoid entry into the United States military when you were younger. But you would think that there's a level of sensitivity that the president would have. Sensitivity maybe not towards Mark Kelly, but towards the process.
S. Ferguson, shout out to you. I see you in the chat. You say he violated Article 88 of the UCMJ. Can you tell us what it is? Dude, I do not have all the articles memorized. I don't. Like, I'll be transparent about that. But even if I had to think about some, I'd probably stumble my way through some. If I had it in front of me, of course, like, it would come back like second nature. But can you tell me what Article 88 is? Because you said he's on retirement pay. So, S. Ferguson, what article, well, you said 88. What is Article 88? What exactly did he violate? Are you talking about Senator Kelly, that he violated by saying what he said? So just clarify that for me in the chat.
Knowing our country and who we are and what we stand for, and he should not be saying something like that. Having said that, respectfully, to Senator Mark Kelly and the other 5 representatives in our nation's capital, Trump wasn't entirely correct. That's true. He also wasn't entirely incorrect. Senator Slotkin, Senator Kelly, Representatives Crow, DeLuzio, Houlihan, and Goodlander. The president wasn't entirely wrong. He may have gone too far with treasonous, punishable by death. But was he wrong to allude to the word seditious or to say the word seditious, particularly when it comes to the language that emanated out of the mouth of Mark Kelly? At least that's the one I saw. No, it was not. Matter of fact, if I remember correctly, looking at Senator Slotkin on television, I believe it was on ABC over the weekend. She claimed on national television, matter of fact, if I remember this, particularly punishable by death.
Dude, I was asking you guys yesterday. I was like, Senator Kelly, when I saw him, I'm like, this guy looks like somebody from like one of the like Star Wars or Star Trek movie. I was just trying to remember, like because we were in the midst of reacting. And I'm like, who does this guy look like? So look at the picture that I paused it on. Look at this. Okay, who does Senator Kelly look like to you guys? Does he look like this? Bro, that's crazy. Because his ears, I just realized that. That's what I was going for. I was literally thinking about Yoda. I'm pretty sure that's who I was thinking about. All right, that's just off topic.
But was he wrong to allude to the word seditious or to say the word seditious, particularly when it comes to the language that emanated out of the mouth of Mark Kelly? At least that's the one I saw. No, it was not. Matter of fact, if I remember correctly, looking at Senator Slotkin on television, I believe it was on ABC over the weekend. She claimed on national television, National Guardsmen were going to start shooting at American civilians. That wasn't responsible. Senator Slotkin, what's that about? What's that about? To allude to the word seditious or to say the word seditious, particularly when it comes to the language that emanated out of the mouth of Mark Kelly? At least that's the one I saw. No, it was not. Matter of fact, if I remember correctly, looking at Senator Slotkin on television, I believe it was on ABC over the weekend. She claimed on national television, National Guardsmen were going to start shooting at American civilians. That wasn't responsible. Senator Slotkin, what's that about? What's that about? That doesn't help matters. And as it pertains to Senator Kelly. Let's make sure we point this out too.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm just teasing, and I said to Stephen A, I said, hey, it's a good word. Seditious is a good word for President Trump to choose, right? It's not your common everyday word, but nonetheless, I think it'll backfire, because some people could say, well, we could say that President Trump was acting in such a way for January 6th, right? And then it'll be like this whole big thing. But I digress. I just don't think that was a fitting word, considering what the word seditious actually means.
Because this is incredibly important. It really, really is. When you look at Senator Kelly and what he said, I asked somebody, one of my researchers, to look this up for me because I wanted to know exactly what this was. And what am I asking about, ladies and gentlemen? I'll tell you what I'm asking about. Because when he called for the military to essentially ignore orders, I started thinking back to that movie, A Few Good Men. I started thinking about Tom Cruise having the character played by Kiefer Sutherland. I think it was Lieutenant Kendrick. And when he was grilling him, and there was an objection from the DA, Kevin Bacon, I remember the judge looking at Tom Cruise and saying, and I will remind you, you're talking to a decorated officer. Because essentially it was a reminder that this isn't a normal court of law. This is the United States military. They live by a different code. They live by a different code of ethics. It's called the Uniform Code of Military Justice, UCMJ. It's the federal law that governs the conduct of all U.S. military personnel, active duty reservists, and in some cases even retired service members. It functions as the military's legal system, separate from civilian law, with its own courts, crimes, procedures, and punishments. That's what it says here. What does the Uniform Code for Military Justice actually do? It sets the rules for crimes and offenses, service member rights, court-martial procedures, non-judicial punishment, Article 15, by the way, and command authority. Why it exists? Because military service requires standards of discipline and readiness beyond civilian law. Essentially, a consistent legal framework. If anybody knows that, it's Mark Kelly. Respectfully, Senator, what the hell are you doing? Looking into the camera and telling military men and women to ignore the commander-in-chief. How dare you? How dare you do that? That's right, I'm calling out. I never served in the military. That's true, I have family members who did. Some of my best friends have. Marines, Air Force, Navy, Army. I haven't heard one of them, not one of them, say that was okay. How dare you do that? Is it treason? No. Is it punishable by death? It shouldn't be. So the answer is no. But you know better, Senator Kelly. You know better. How dare you do that? What are you supposed to do? You're a ranking senator. You can go to the Senate. You can go to the House. You can draw up paperwork. You can try to start articles of impeachment if you think there's something illegal. I mean, damn, it ain't like y'all haven't done it before. You impeached the man twice. Where'd that get you? Got us behind back in the White House. Had you left him alone since 2020, maybe he wouldn't be back. Terrorizing the Democratic Party the way that he is. But you did it.
The Democratic Party is terrorizing itself. That's hilarious. But shout out to S. Ferguson. Thanks for that information. Yeah, I saw what my mind put. I agree with that. In that case, yeah, he probably is in trouble if you're saying because based on that article and what you put about the Constitution. Stephen A. Smith went on record just now to say, he said, listen, I've never been in the military, but how dare you go on record and tell people in the United States military to undermine the commander-in-chief? And this is why I said to you guys, have a conversation with a veteran or someone who is serving in your life. I thought it was interesting when Lori put in the chat that just remember, I was following orders doesn't hold up when you're being charged with war crimes. It's absolutely true. right? So there's something to think about there. But like I said, when you have people that are following orders, and especially depending on who gives that order, the scenario is the scenario. Let's just leave it at that.
You did it. And here you are again with this nonsense. How dare you do that? I'm not a military person, and I know better than that. You don't tell military men and women to ignore an order from the commander-in-chief. You don't do that. Is it going to amount to what Trump tried to embellish and indicate? No. But that don't make you right. How dare you do that? He's the commander-in-chief for the United States military. Period. You have no business doing that. None. And by the way, the biggest reason is because what was illegal. You didn't tell us what it was. What laws? Why did I bring up A Few Good Men with Tom Cruise and Kiefer Sutherland in that sequence? And Kevin Bacon. Why did I bring it up? Because the mere thought of you even implying that a military officer is engaging in some type of salacious or illegal activity is trouble in the military, not the court of laws for civilians, the military. Senator Mark Kelly knows that. Trump is giving illegal orders. What are the illegal orders? How come you didn't tell us? Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? Why do you think the investigation is going on? Why do you think Trump is all over Pete Hegseth, over the Department of War and the FBI with Cash Patel, and folks are looking into and probing what's going on and how can they get to Mark Kelly because they know he did something wrong. You crossed the damn line. You are an elected official in the nation's capital. We have a constitution. You got a problem, you go through the necessary process. Whether it's Hakeem Jeffries in the House, whether it's Schumer in the Senate, or anybody else, that is the point that's the process you're supposed to go to. You don't go in front of the cameras and give military officer or military.
Here's where we can't really argue with Stephen A. Smith. It's interesting that Mark Kelly would even presume that President Trump would give an illegal order. Now, that's what some people said, right? Why put it even out there that the President of the United States is going to give an illegal order? Now, we saw this when President Trump was picking his cabinet. During their Senate hearings, all of the representatives would always ask Kash Patel, Kristi Noem, Tulsi Gabbard, Pete Hegseth. They would go on record to ask all of them, if the President of the United States were to give you an illegal order, would you follow it? They went on record to constantly ask them this question, right? So I think it's interesting that Mark Kelly just presumes that President Trump is going to give someone in the military an illegal order and that they would follow it, right? This is why it's important to see both sides. People get so mad sometimes and they come over and they're like, oh my God, Q, I can't believe you're playing this platform or this news media. And I'm like, listen, I'm going to listen to both sides. I'm not saying I'm not saying I love CNN. I'm saying I like to gather information, so I listen to everything. It's interesting that Mark Kelly would say something like that. He just presumes that the President of the United States would throw an illegal order at his military. I'm just saying that says something. I'm not saying going after the pension necessarily is right, but I'm also saying we have to look at it in its entirety, right? Yes, he is a combat pilot, but he is telling people who are on active duty to actively ignore the chief and commander if they give them a direct order. I don't know. He put himself in a sticky situation, to say the least.
Military personnel, a directive to ignore their commander-in-chief, and you've given no evidence what his illegal orders were. And if you try to sit up there and say, oh, it was just alluding to a future reference, to future situations, oh, so he's going to give you an illegal order in the future. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, that flies over the airwaves of Sirius XM or one of these news networks or something like that. It does not apply in our military. You can't do that. So once again, here we are finding ourselves To all of us moderates out here, which makes up about 80 to 85% of the electorate, by the way, what does this all mean? What this all means is that there's an absence of common sense on the fringes. Extreme right, extreme left, people don't know how the hell to act. And engaging in this kind of back and forth gives the impression of dissension and vitriol beyond the realms of sensibilities. And something needs to be done. This is why a damn sports guy with no interest in being an elected official is being considered a presidential candidate, because we don't trust their asses. Because they don't know how to act. This is overboard. I thought hyperbole and embellishment was supposed to be reserved for Trump, Senator Kelly. That's what I thought. Evidently, I was wrong. Rahm Emanuel, former White House Chief of Staff, former mayor of Chicago, as knowledgeable as...
One thing we can count on Stephen A. Smith to be is himself, and he can be very overzealous, especially when he's passionate about something. But what's shocking to me is that he actually went on the side of President Trump, and he went at Senator Kelly, and he goes, "You don't do that. You don't." He said, "Listen, I've never been in the military, but you don't tell active duty military to actively disobey a direct order, especially coming from the commander-in-chief, right? It shouldn't come from any higher up." But he's saying you shouldn't be saying that. Like, you're in the wrong for saying that. Again, like I said earlier, do I think that they should go after the man's pension? Something that he worked for his whole entire life? Something that he's earned in the military? No. But, he has done something, and he has poked the bear of Trump. So we just have to see how that plays itself out. All right, guys, let's move on to the next clip.
If you're watching this right now, I pray that you don't just scroll past. I hope that when your heart hears...
Shout out to Benny Johnson. I know some of you guys are gonna go crazy in the chat saying Russia Benny. Come on, let's cut Benny some slack. But he covered this just a couple of hours ago after his first video. So when I first watched it, he covered it about 2 hours ago. But it's a little bit of an update as far as the two National Guardsmen who were shot in D.C. So let's take a listen.
Horrifying breaking news on this Thanksgiving Eve about the ambush attack at the White House today that has left 2 National Guardsmen in critical condition. The picture of the attack is now coming more into focus. All that we had on the attacker was that his description of an Arabic Muslim man with a long beard, and this blurry image is what we've had for the last 8 hours. And now we finally know who this attacker was and what their motive was, and most importantly, why the hell are they in our country? We know it all, ladies and gentlemen. Here is a clearer picture of the actual attacker and their identity. Ramla Lankwal from Afghanistan, 29 years old, Afghan national, entered the United States under Joe Biden in 2021 and overstayed his visa here, ladies and gentlemen, illegally, and screamed Allahu Akbar during the attack when he approached the 2 unarmed National Guardsmen who were armed only with a pocket knife, with a handgun, and shot them at point blank range. Ramanullah Lakhdwal from Afghanistan. This monster is in our country, this evil, sick, terrorist bastard, because of Joe Biden, and was allowed to stay here because of Joe Biden. and has entered our nation most likely due to Joe Biden's nightmarish withdrawal from Afghanistan, where they just scooped up random people, did zero vetting, and allowed pretty much anybody who could get to an airport into our nation. What do you think that was going to allow? Terrorists to come into our country. 2 National Guard soldiers shot in ambush-style horrific attack. Lockdown at White House. Ramanullah Lankwal, 29, has been named as the alleged gunman in custody over the horrific shootout. The law enforcement sources told NBC News that the gunman had been identified as an.
So that's why I chose this, because Benny, as he gets updates, he usually comes on pretty fast. He'll post something 6 hours and then find something else out and come back 2 hours later. And he does that pretty often. So shout out to Benny. Guys, don't destroy Benny in the chat. Sometimes you guys are like, Russian Benny's in cahoots with Russian. I'm like, oh God, Benny, I'm so sorry. But he makes a great point here, because some of that stuff I didn't know. So the National Guardsmen were armed with only pocket knives, right? I guess this makes sense, because so many people made such an uproar of President Trump putting them in D.C. and in all these places, that it makes sense that they wouldn't have, I guess, let's say M16s or some type of service rifle. But that's not good, right? Because they just had a knife, right? So the guy comes up to them and he yells the phrase that Benny talks about, right? Which is a phrase that refers to God in their language. And then he shoots them at point blank range. So definitely terroristic, right? Definitely intentional. So this was an intentional terrorist attack, right? And it looks like it was on government officials. It doesn't look like this person was aiming for any American citizens or let's say civilians. It looks like it was aimed specifically at the guardsmen who were in DC. So let's keep watching.
Afghan national shooting began investigating a possible act of terrorism. He came to the United States during the chaotic U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021 under Joe Biden's Operation Allies Welcome. God. The operation sought to resettle vulnerable Afghans, including those who assisted the U.S. during the war. It is understood that Lankwal was residing in Washington state. Donald Trump vowed that the animal who shot him will pay a very steep price. Cass Patel confirmed the 2 soldiers were targeted and that they were being treated at a local hospital. West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey earlier sparked confusion by announcing that they were dead. They were in critical condition. The graphic images from the scene showed soldiers lying injured in the pavement, blood pouring from their heads. Clearly, it had been a shot in the head. Trump deployed 2,300 National Guard troops to D.C. The FBI ATF Secret Service swarmed the scene. Helicopter landed on the National Mall to evacuate one of the wounded guardsmen. Oh, it'll make you so angry. Will we stop committing suicide as a culture? Will we finally put an end to this? Will we finally force remigration? Will we shut all migration down to zero? Some people are posting this photo. I have not confirmed that this is the official photo of the actual, it looks years old. But if this is the photo, this is what people are alleging online. Ladies and gentlemen, this individual here illegally as a visa overstay, Afghan national, brought here under Joe Biden, because Joe Biden nightmarishly surrendered Afghanistan to terrorists in the worst possible way and then evacuated and just grabbed any random Afghani that they could on their way out. You remember them falling off the planes and everything. Multiple law enforcement officials tell CBS News the suspect was an Afghan national who entered the U.S. in 2021 and then screamed Allahu Akbar.
Obviously, it would add a big different look at this. It's a tragedy either way, as those National Guard troops were attacked.
Yeah, there's some reports that he shouted Allahu Akbar, a phrase that we've become painfully familiar with from Muslim extremists through the age of terrorism. That would probably short-circuit what would have otherwise been rather a poisonous debate.
It looks like that's the route that they're heading, and that's why I said so this was definitely an intentional act of terrorism. It doesn't seem like any civilians were targeted. It seems like they were targeting the 2 National Guard personnel. I'm not sure if this man knew that they didn't have guns on them, because he goes up to them. They had knives, Benny says, but he shoots them at point blank range. So that makes me wonder, is it very obvious that they don't have anything because they don't have a big rifle? Is it not obvious that they don't have a handgun? Do some of them and some of them don't? I'm not sure what that looks like, but the fact that he shot them at point blank range, it just evokes questions in me, because it makes me think, what made him so comfortable to get that close? Normally, some people would think, okay, surely if I get that close, a military service member or a police officer is going to draw a gun. But this person was willing to go that close. So maybe they understand, the people who are in the area where these guardsmen are, that they do not have weapons on them other than just pocket knives. Now, they are trained to use a knife. Like, I'm trained to use a knife if I don't have my rifle on me or if I don't have a handgun. And I'm also trained to use a knife that can be on the end of a service rifle. Usually you can refer to it as a bayonet. I'm trained to use that if my rifle, let's say, didn't have any bullets in it. But I don't see either of those things. We just hear about a pocket knife, which, like I said, this is worrisome for me. But I can also see how intimidating it would be if they were walking around these areas with, like, big service rifles. So let's keep watching.
About motive here, if it turns out to be an act of terror, that puts it in a different category for sure. But this was about as cold-blooded an attempted murder as we could imagine. No justification for it in any way, and one hopes and trusts that people will not try to do so.
Law enforcement have identified Ramanullah Wankwal as an Afghan national, possible act of terrorism. It is being investigated and classified as an act of terrorism. Now, President Trump just this week designated the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. Of course he was. It is time to start using the military for deportations. These people have to go. That is exactly right. Incongruent with a possible act of terrorism. It is being investigated and classified as an act of terrorism. Now, President Trump just this week designated the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. Of course he was. It is time to start using the military for deportations. These people have to go. That is exactly right. Incongruent with our culture. Law enforcement sources in D.C. tell me the National Guardman was an Afghan national who used a revolver. The guardsmen themselves were not armed with a firearm. They used a pocket knife to stab the suspect. Another guardsman responded to gunfire, shot the suspect multiple times. The suspect reportedly shouted, "Allahu Akbar." An Afghan national. We can either mass deport these savages or sit by passively and watch our civilization crumble. That is exactly right. We need mass deportations and remigration right now. Remigration of large swaths of populations and cultures that have been brought here on potentially legal or illegal grounds that have and do not assimilate into United States culture. I mean, this is like exactly what the 1928, 1924 immigration laws are all about. You have to have a time of assimilation. You can't just keep bringing in every culture on earth, creating their own microcultures in places like Somalia or all throughout Texas, building their own Sharia cities. You won't have a country. We've already seen how this plays out in Europe. You have to have a time. J.D. Vance just proposed this. You must have a zero immigration time for the country to settle down, for the pot to cool. And yes, remigration should be mandatory. Like when for instance, Trump took away the temporary protected status of Haitians and Somalis over the last 2 weeks. We must require remigration for peoples that are here, that are either visa overstays or have their TPS stripped away. From cultures that are clearly incongruent with America. It is not your right to move to America. Afghan national enter the U.S. under Joe Biden. We need a complete immigration moratorium until we've done a complete review of everyone who entered the U.S. under Biden. All asylum claims need to be reviewed again. All illegal aliens deported. We cannot say it enough. It's a possible act of terrorism. That is how it's being investigated. The guardsmen only had a pocket.
At ShopRite, we are here for your family's holiday gathering with everything from turkeys and sides to pre-game snacks. No matter how you celebrate the day, happy Thanksgiving. From our family to yours, ShopRite, we are here.
We need your help to save the masjid where over 100 Americans have accepted Islam. This is your
knife. Oh, man. It makes me so angry. President Trump, I hear, will be making an announcement shortly on this. Ladies and gentlemen, more details on the attack right
The difference in Washington,
Wait, sorry.
Down
Hold on, Chairman, hold on. We just got this. I need to get to it. This just in, sources are telling Fox News that the shooter is an illegal immigrant from Afghanistan who came in during Operation Allies, welcome under the Biden administration, and he overstayed that visa. All right, Chairman, so Fox News is learning that this person was here illegally, overstayed his visa, and that's who this shooter profile is. What's your immediate reaction?
Well, my immediate reaction is we tried desperately to get an accounting of all the people that came from Afghanistan to the United States during that disastrous withdrawal during the Biden administration. That was a huge priority for the House Oversight Committee. We never got that information. We were never allowed to get that information because I don't think the government had any idea. I don't think they kept an accurate accounting. And if they did, I think they realized there were probably lots of gaps. We were told there were going to be about 2,000 people that had worked with our military as people that tried to help with the cause to help protect our troops in Afghanistan. Right. But then at the end of the day, there were closer to 100,000. But we don't know what that number was, and I don't think the government has kept good track of it. And I'm sure there were mistakes.
Radical action needs to be taken. We cannot continue to allow our nation to be overrun with people who hate us. Radical action must be taken. The left is inherently violent. They create violent policies, whether it's their agents who are committing the violence in the case of President Trump, Charlie Kirk, and so many others.
Dude, I get it. Some of you might feel like Benny's being overzealous because you might say, why is he saying that we can't let people in our country who hate us? But if you're going to attack military service members, I mean, these are not even regular civilians. Not that it's okay to attack anyone, but you're going to attack government officials, people who work for the military. At that point, I would say, yeah, I could agree. You hate the country, right? You're going after government officials at this point. You do it. You hate the country if you go after anyone in that country, but if you go after their government officials and their military service members, I would go as far as to say, yeah, you definitely hate the country.
The ICE shootings, or whether it is their ideology that is allowing the violence to pour onto our streets, judges who are letting people who have 70 prior arrests back out onto the street, or immigration policies like this that are just suicidal, it has to end. It has to end. If you agree with that, like, share, and subscribe. See ya.
All right, shout out to Benny for covering that. Next up, we're going to go over to the White House. They have some news. So apparently, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, her brother's wife, I believe it is, was detained by ICE. A lot of people found this comical. I mean, I didn't have an opinion either way, but they just thought it was comical because she's just been so much in support of what President Trump is doing with ICE and mass deportations, and they kind of looked at this like it backfired. But she did go on record to say that she has not had contact with this person in a couple of years. So let's take a watch.
Seems no one is immune from those immigration raids, not even the family of the White House press secretary. A woman with a family connection to Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt is now being held by ICE. Her attorney confirms she is a native of Brazil. She is the mother of Leavitt's nephew. Scripps News investigative correspondent Patrick Terpstra is live in our DC newsroom. And Patrick, does she face deportation?
She absolutely does, Del. She is locked up right now in Louisiana awaiting deportation hearings. Her name is Bruna Caroline Ferreira, and she is the mother of an 11-year-old boy who is also the nephew of White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. She shares custody of that 11-year-old with Leavitt's brother, Michael. The two of them are still in close contact but do not live together. All of this began with that traffic stop earlier this month in November in the suburbs of Boston, where she was ultimately detained by ICE and sent down to Louisiana. According to the White House and the Department of Homeland Security, she is a, quote, criminal illegal alien, something that the attorney disputes. The attorney representing Ferreira saying that she came to the United States as a child in the mid-90s and overstayed a 1999 visa at the time. Again, she was a child, just about 5 years old when this happened in 1999. And according to Homeland Security, there is a charge she faced at some point for battery. But that is something that the attorney tells us simply is not true. The attorney saying that she does not have any criminal record. So she continues to fight this. I
thought that part was interesting when I was watching that. How they have something where they feel like she has a charge of battery. But then her attorney saying, no, that's not true. She doesn't have any criminal record. So then it's like, okay, so where did that realization come from? Where is the battery charge coming from at all? If she has nothing on her criminal record, are they trying to put it there? Is it there? Has it been expunged? Like, what's actually the real deal? So I thought that was super confusing.
All the while, the attorney is saying they do not believe that there is any sort of connection here with Caroline Leavitt. They do not believe that Ferreira was targeted. Take a listen.
Our concern right now is getting a single mother out of an ICE hellhole in Louisiana. We have no idea why she was detained. She wasn't given any explanation at all. And her relationship with the press secretary for the White House.
Now, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to go back and I want you guys to listen to this. I actually didn't like this because I'm like, so what makes her so different? Is it now, he says that her being the sister-in-law or the brother's wife of Caroline Leavitt just happened to be by happenstance, right? But when he says we just want to get a single mother out of an ICE hellhole, it's like, we've seen you guys pull a lot of single mothers or mothers off the street and away from their children. Why is this mother so important? See, now that raised the flags. I try not to look at things like that, but it was really the way he worded it. Like, his verbiage it flagged me, right? And I'm like, oh, so this single mother that's in the ICE detention center, she's important, even though you're saying her being somewhat related to Caroline Leavitt is by happenstance. But all the other mothers that you've dragged out of cars, pulled out of cars, broke the window to drag them out the window or whatever heinous or treacherous thing you did, those mothers were okay to stay in the ICE facility. You see? This is what I'm talking about.
Appears to be happenstance.
Attorney tells us simply is not true. The attorney saying that she does not have any criminal record. So she continues to fight this. All the while, the attorney is saying they do not believe that there is any sort of connection here with Caroline Leavitt. They do not believe that Ferreira was targeted. Take a listen.
Our concern right now is getting a single mother out of an ICE hellhole in Louisiana. We have no idea why she was detained. She wasn't given any explanation at all. And her relationship with the press secretary for the White House appears to be happenstance.
And the attorney saying that she was arrested on her way to actually go to school to pick up her son, that 11-year-old boy, who again is the nephew of Caroline Leavitt. We reached out to the White House in hopes of getting comment from Leavitt. We got a statement back from someone who asked to be referred to as a source close to the situation, who said that Leavitt and Ferreira, the detained woman, have not spoken in years. Del.
Scripps News investigative correspondent Patrick Terpstra live for us in our DC newsroom. Patrick, as always, thank you.
Welcome to the mistletoe. Thanks so much. Have a great holiday. Every charming little town has a dark.
Now, I thought that was interesting when they reached out to her. Instead of her responding, someone else responded and said her and the lady who was being detained hadn't spoken years. Instantly, that made me think to myself, you don't talk to your family? Like, now, granted, can I go an entire year without talking to my siblings? Not all of them. somewhat, right? So I can't say the answer is actually yes. I can go most of the year without talking to maybe some of my siblings, and that's because some of them might only reach out during holidays, right? So that is possible. But she didn't say I hadn't spoke to her since Mother's Day, or I haven't spoken to her since Valentine's Day. She said I haven't spoken to her in a few years. So I thought that part was interesting. Nonetheless, we'll keep following that. We'll see if anything comes of that. But no one is safe out here in these streets. Not even the White House press secretary's sister-in-law. Because that's what she is. But for some reason, they're not referring to her as that. So I'm not sure if her and the brother are like divorced, broken up, or never married. I'm not really sure what's going on there. But let's move on to the next clip.
Now, while Ben Shapiro makes the case that young and disaffected, how do you look at those statistics and think to yourself, you know what? The people who are struggling right now, they're the problem.
What the right needs to actually say, and again, it's politically unpopular, but they need to say is, listen, if you're failing in life, yes, we can get the obstacles out of your way, but kind of, it's a little your fault. It's a little your fault. You should actually pick your ass up and go out and do something useful. And this notion that you as a Gen Z male are facing these obstacles that no other human has faced for all of human history, like read a book for one day, like seriously. Like go talk to your grandfather. There are people who will say, we shouldn't give aid to Ukraine, and we shouldn't give aid to Israel, and we shouldn't give aid to Egypt, and we shouldn't give aid to Saudi Arabia. Fine. Okay, I think that's stupid. I think that's poorly thought out.
Now, I don't agree with Ben Shapiro on everything, right? But I have gone on the record to say I do like Ben. Ben is a channel favorite, meaning we react to him over here a lot. But here's the thing. He makes a great point here about Gen Z men when he says, don't act like some of the issues that you're dealing with are issues that no man has ever dealt with. He's like, read a book, right? Go talk to your grandfather. Now, that is a spectacular point. Go talk to your grandfather. Here's one thing I can say is very prevalent amongst Gen Zers. And I'm not going to say it's everyone because clearly I don't know the entire generation. But what I see prevalent is that grandparents are just not that revered. Like, I don't know. They don't seem that special to them or like that important. It's weird because as a millennial, I'm like, dude, our grandparents were like everything to us. At least, for the most part. If you had toxic grandparents, I'm sorry. But grandparents and toxic shouldn't even be in the same sentence, but I know it happens. But it's kind of crazy when he says that. He's like, go sit down and have a conversation with your grandfather. Surely he can tell you that, yes, this is something men have been dealing with for generations upon generations.
No aid to Americans in regard to U.S. taxpayer money, but aid to foreign countries, you got to do it, of course. Now, while Ben Shapiro makes the case that young and disaffected Americans should essentially stop whining and pick themselves up by the bootstraps, he also manages to argue in favor of U.S. military aid for Israel, and as you just heard from that clip, other foreign countries as well. And he makes these points hilariously in the context of the exact same panel discussion. So let's get into it, because this is pretty incredible. So what prompted a bit of a crash out that you're about to witness really centered on the topic, of course, of Nick Fuentes, because of course. I feel like that's the only topic that's being discussed right now in these circles, at these conferences. And so what's behind Nick Fuentes' popularity? Why is this happening? Like, that's the real question that keeps coming up in the context of these conferences. And well, I think there's a legitimate argument to be made about, young, disaffected men who feel left behind by both American culture and especially by the economy. Looks like Ben Shapiro has a different argument. So look, there's no question that Nick Fuentes says both incredibly offensive, terrible things, but on top of that, he tends to speak to the frustrations that young American males are currently experiencing, and that needs to be addressed. But instead of addressing it, the name-calling and ad hominem attacks happen. What also doesn't help is what you're about to see from Ben Shapiro.
The Andrew Tate thing is a great comp for what's happening with Fuentes. Fuentes is the political version of Andrew Tate. It's just to burn it all down. Right? We hate all of this. All the institutions have been thoroughly destroyed, and so now we just have to get rid of whatever superstructure remains. Just tear down the facade.
What about the 20-year-olds who are trying to find their way in this movement in this country.
What young men really want to do is actually go build things. They actually want to go out and forge into the world and be useful and be productive. And this is why you'll hear complaints, oh, I can't get married anymore. I can't buy a house. I mean, you can. But that's the thing that you're being told over and over. You can't get married. Why can't you get married? Right? I can't have, yes, you certainly can have kids. I can't buy a house. No, you actually can. You just have to move out of New York. I got so much crap for this last week. You just might have to move out of New York City and like go check out Texas. One of the things that I would love to see the right do with young men is actually do a little bit more tough talk with them. I think that the right is actually...
I mean, I'm not against his tough talk. I mean, he makes some good points here, right? He says, like, you know, you actually might have to look in Texas. Now, people might say, well, why... My fault about that, guys. People might say, why would I have to go to Texas to buy a house if I live in New York City? Well, I mean, it just depends. If you live in New York and you're... Now, this is as someone who born and raised from New York City. If you're living in New York and let's say your salary is $140K a year, right? That's pretty much a joke in New York City, right? Now, it does depend on where at in New York you live, but you're not living comfortably like in Manhattan or something like that. So some people who are making a salary like that, they want a house, maybe Staten Island, somewhere where it's just like it's way beyond their means, and they're not open-minded. They're not willing to say, you know what, I can take this salary, and if I make the same salary in a state like Texas, I can probably have a house that's a 4 or 5 bedroom house, depending on what neighborhood I want to move in. So when he says that, I think people need to have more tough talks with young men. I actually think that that's a real good point. I actually don't think that there's any harm in that or anything like that. There's nothing wrong with having tough talks. There's nothing wrong with sitting in tension and figuring out how to navigate through it. So he's making some pretty decent points. I'm not going to say I agree with everything.
Weirdly feminizing young men by giving them a victimology to buy into. If you're failing in life, yes, we can get the obstacles out of your way, but kind of, it's a little your fault. It's a little your fault. You should actually kick your ass up and go out and do something useful. And this notion that you as a Gen Z male are facing these obstacles that no other human has faced for all of human history, like read a book for one day, like seriously.
The reason why it's offensive to tell young Americans that if they can't afford the neighborhoods they grew up in and have roots in is because those roots include their family members, their friends. Getting priced out of the community that you grew up in is infuriating, especially when you have no solutions at all from the very people that are supposed to represent Americans in their best interest, and that's these politicians who are pretty much useless. And it's offensive.
I mean, to her point, it is infuriating, but it happens all of the time. A lot of people don't own a house in the neighborhood that they grew up in when they were 5 or 6. That is just not something that happens right now. I'm not going to say it didn't happen 40 years ago, but it doesn't happen as much as it does right now. And it actually doesn't bother people that much as it used to, right? It's not that much of a bother. Yeah, there are some of us that we would like to stay where we grew up at and buy a house. And there are others of us that are like, no, we want to go as far away from this place as possible. That wasn't always popular. At least it wasn't as popular as it is now, right? 40, 50 years ago, people grew up in the town. They stayed in that town. They bought a house in that town. They had a family in that town. They grew old in that town. They died in that town, right? That's not so much the case right now. And honestly, with millennials and Gen Z, we don't care about that as much. Some of us just want the thought of buying a house to not be a far off reality to us, right? So that's really where I think the younger generations are coming from. And that's where Ben is saying there's nothing wrong with just having a harder conversation. Hey, it's not impossible to buy a house. You just might need to look in a different state, right? So that can be upsetting, yes, because now I'm not going to purchase a house in the state that I grew up in. But there's reason for that. Primarily, it's because I don't want to. Like, I actually don't have a desire to purchase a house in the state I grew up in. But I do have a desire to purchase a house in the state I currently live in. And that's doable for me. But for some people, that's not doable either. They're not in the state they grew up in and where they currently live. They're like, okay, Q, I get it. Well, I'm not in South Carolina. Well, it's pretty cheap down there, so I can't pick there. I'm not in California, right? And I grew up there. And right now, I'm living in Chicago, and it's too expensive here, right? This is where Ben is saying, well, you might need to consider a place like Texas, right? You might need to consider a place like South Carolina. And I get it, because people think about that, and they're like, hell no. Like, I'm just being honest with you. Some people, like, it's just a flat out hell no. But does it have to be? And this is where Ben Shapiro is saying having hard conversations with young men, because it will be young men that will move their family to these places to obtain these dreams, right? If your wife wants a house and you want to keep living in a state where you're going to not be able to get her a house until you guys are about 50, 55, 60 years old. Well, you know, if she's cool with that, then that's fine. I have better dreams than that for my family, right? And you should have better dreams and aspirations of that for yourself. So I feel like Ben Shapiro is making a great point here where he says it's not a terrible thing to have a hard conversation with men.
When there aren't any solutions at all, period, I don't want to move to Texas, right? I want to stay here where my family is. And that's why you have more and more young Americans. I'm talking about, when I say young, I'm talking about the Americans in their late 20s, early 30s. They want to stay close to their families. They can't afford the housing, so they move in with their grandmas, okay? Or they move in with their parents. And it is incredibly frustrating to see how much more difficult it is for younger generations to just reach the typical milestones in life that previous generations were able to get to much earlier than younger generations are able to today. So that's not a solution. Essentially telling Americans in a rigged economic system where more and more wealth is getting concentrated at the very top, it is not a solution to tell them to shut up, buck up, and stop whining. And you can't, on one hand, chide Americans for their victim mentality while aiding and abetting the victim mentality that we hear incessantly from the government of Israel. We're going to get to that in just a minute. But first, a little more of the crash out.
Judaism values the idea that you're supposed to forge forth into the world and you have moral duties that you're supposed to do every single day. These are things that you're required to do every single day. And that you're a loser if you don't. Really, you're a loser and you're making your life worse. Okay, we shouldn't be shy about this. I think that we're all too shy about this sort of stuff with young men particularly. So, if you choose not to, that's why. If you should, no. Your life will be worse and you will be a loser if you don't do these things that are going to make your life better. If you listen to Nick Fuentes, you are likely...
Now, this is upsetting to some people, but the reason why I'm laughing at it is because Ben Shapiro is giving this advice from the perspective of a dad, right? Like, you guys got to remember when he's talking, it's not, even if he didn't have children, he would probably have the aspiration to be a father because he's talked about that, right? For a long time. And a lot of young men do. You know what's funny? Even if you sit down and you have conversations with gay men, which I've done lots of times, even there are so many gay men that are like, yeah, I want children. He's talking from the perspective of a dad, and he's saying, yes, there's nothing wrong with that. So many people are saying, oh, well, if you choose not to do it, then you don't have to do it. Can I just be transparent with you guys? That's going to be your mom. Like, there's a good chance that that's going to be your mom. But when it comes to your dad, like, he's sitting there, he's like, no, it's not a bad thing to say. You will, if you don't do this, you will be a loser. And you will have a hard life. And you will have a lot of regrets. And listen, some people need to hear that, right? Especially sons. This is where people don't understand. And they're just like, oh, now you're just being gender biased. Just shut up right now. Because sons do need to hear that. Like, you could do the coddling thing if you want to. At the end of the day, men have to go out and they have to make hard decisions for their family. And the coddling thing doesn't always work. They need guidance. And with Ben's sister, he's probably going to tell his son, hey, son, if you go out and you make this decision, it's going to be a dumb decision. And you're going to have a lot of regrets. And you're going to be kicking yourself in the behind that you made that decision. And he needs to hear that. It doesn't always need to be, oh, well, sweetheart, if you just don't feel it, okay, just ignore your feelings sometimes. They're great indicators. They're horrible masters. So I think Ben is making a great point here. Let's finish listening.
To be a loser. If you choose not to, that's why. If you should, no. Your life will be worse and you will be a loser if you don't do these things that are going to make your life better. If you listen to Nick Fuentes, you are likely to be a loser. He is a loser. He is a basement-dwelling, ridiculous loser who spends his days ranting on the internet to a bunch of other basement dwellers. Don't be one of those people.
You have to dismantle the actual substance of the arguments that Nick...
All right, now I'm not going to lie. The loser part towards Nick, it felt like this much personal. You guys tell me what you felt. It felt like that personal, just a little bit. I'm just saying that's the only part where I don't know if I would deem it a crash out, but it was a little bit of a rant, Ben. It was just a little bit, but I get it.
Fuentes is making, calling him a loser and then addressing his audience as a group of losers is only going to make the very issue you care deeply about, Ben, a lot worse. How does he not see this? And this is the thing. Ben is doing okay financially, as we can all imagine. And sometimes what ends up happening when you're doing real well economically, financially, you become disconnected from the reality on the ground for the vast majority of Americans. So rather than telling these young men to go read a book because they're losers in their mom's basements, how about you step outside your studio and have conversations with real people and talk to them about what they're going through. And if you don't want to, that's okay. I mean, I can help you out because I have specific examples of specific Americans and what they've been going through. So keep in mind, our economy currently has a problem with inflation, rising unemployment, a housing shortage, severe housing shortage, private equity snatching up homes despite the fact that we have limited inventory of homes to buy, which is making the situation worse. And our government is sending foreign countries hundreds of billions of dollars as our people are suffering. So I don't watch Nick Fuentes, but I'm angry. How could I not be angry? How can you see what's happening on the ground in this country? Okay, people living in squalor on the streets. Close to 100,000 Americans dying of drug overdoses every year. How do you look at those statistics and think to yourself, you know what? The people who are struggling right now, they're the problem. And look, I get it. I get, there's definitely some people who love to wallow in self-pity, don't think they have any agency, and just think that things should be handed to them. But is that the real problem right now? No, that's not the real problem right now. It's not. When you have people who are coming into college because they think, I need to get this college degree, otherwise I'm not going to get hired anywhere, and they leave with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt because, at this point, higher education has become quite a bit of a scam. How do you not speak out against that system? How do you think that it's okay for so many Americans to, the average age of home ownership in this country is now 38. And the solution from the federal government so far.
It's actually 40. That the median age to buy a home in the country is actually 40. But here's the thing. Some polls are saying different, but for the most part, it's actually 39 to 40. I don't think Ben Shapiro is saying that people that are struggling are the problem. I think he's saying that people in this country are afraid to have hard conversations with men and that they've been coddled long enough, and even they themselves are revolting against that. So I actually don't see eye to eye with her on this at all. I think she's going a little bit hard on Ben about this. I don't think she's taking it easy on Nick per se. I think she sees his point. And I can see Nick's point too. I forgot who said it, but someone said, what we're seeing in younger men right now is a revolt, because what they're saying is that, hey, listen, what's going on around us is making our lives feel like everything is too expensive. We can't afford anything. And if you are not going to help us do that, then we're going to put people in office that will help us do that. Even if it's a Zohran Mamdani, who you think is too radical, but we like this person's ideas. So, this matters, right? Young men are actually revolting against the whole, coddling, follow your feelings, if you don't want to make that decision. And I think it's more along the lines of what Ben is saying. And he's saying, listen, the hard conversations with younger men need to happen more often.
Far has been, hey, maybe we consider legalizing 50-year mortgages. Okay, so you buy a house at 40 with a 50-year mortgage. Do the math. Do the math. So let's give you some specific examples, because the Financial Times just published a piece about the residents of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, hardly Los Angeles, California, hardly New York City. It's the kind of place where Ben would like to think Americans struggling in these big cities can move to, for affordability. But let's check in with the residents of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Let's see how they're doing. Anissa Camacho, a 26-year-old florist who can no longer afford rent, so she moved in with her grandparents. It feels like everything is just closing in around us, honestly. I work 2 jobs, my partner works 2 jobs, and it just feels like we are like scraping for crumbs here. So you have a dual-income household in which both members of said household are working 2 jobs. And she needs to move in with her grandmother because they can't afford rent. Dimitri Nash, 32 years old. He works as a yard driver for a local warehouse, sometimes up to 72 hours a week. It's not optional. It's mandatory for me to work the hours that I work because of the rise in cost of living. He has cut back meals to save money. Quote, it shouldn't be that way, especially for food. I mean, you gotta eat, he said. So I'm sure it's his fault. Some way, somehow it's his fault. He doesn't realize that he has agency, that he can pick himself up by the bootstraps and maybe work, 80 hours a week instead of 72. Mark Riddle, the executive director of a food pantry in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, stated, quote, we see a lot of people who have been evicted because they couldn't pay their rent, because they had a car accident and then couldn't pay their medical bills. I think that's the sort of homelessness that we'll start to see a lot more of. But I don't want to hear anything about their victimhood, says Ben Shapiro. Because all of his patience for victimhood apparently is reserved for a specific country, and we know what that country is. So let's hear what he has to say about struggling Americans who pay their taxes and then watch their tax revenue get sent abroad to a country committing atrocities in Gaza, in the West Bank, in Lebanon, in other Middle Eastern countries. Let's take a look.
The MOU, I think, again, it provides a convenient talking point for people who don't understand geopolitics in any significant way. The reality is that in many ways, the MOU is significantly better for the United States than it is for Israel. It allows the United States to yank Israel's chain on matters of security. It allows America to hamper Israel's military-industrial complex in fairly significant ways. And so I think there's actually a fairly solid case to be made that the MOU is more beneficial to the United States government than it is to the Israeli government. I think for both governments, it would be better if they negotiated toward the end of an MOU. And I think that the Prime Minister would like to do that, actually, at some point in the very, very near future.
Ben is a liar. The Israeli government has proposed that the United States sign a 20-year MOU. So MOU is basically the agreement for the U.S. to funnel military aid to Israel. Okay,
I've covered that on the channel probably like 2 different times now. It was titled U.S. pays Israel, U.S. 20-year payout to Israel, is something of that sort. A lot of people are flipping out about this. They're like, we're already giving them so much money and now they want more. Oh, great. Now what does Israel want? Oh, great. Now how much more do they want? So this is actually a real thing of what they're asking for. This is something that I'm telling you, it had the chat. You guys went crazy in the chat. It has people going nuts. Everyone's just saying, Trump, you better not sign this. Trump better not sign that. A lot of people are frustrated with the whole, like, it's supposed to be make America great again, but they don't like the amount of aid that is going to Israel. People have been super vocal about that in 2025. More vocal than we've seen in any other year. It's been very vocal this year.
Usually a decade long. That was the last MOU that was agreed upon during the Obama administration. Netanyahu and the Israeli government sees the writing on the wall. They see how unpopular Israel is and how unpopular it is for the American people to send their resources to a country that's committing atrocities. And so in response to that, the Israeli government's like, oh, we better lock this in for 20 years instead of 10. So do not talk to me about how, like, oh, yeah, the current prime minister is totally, like, finding a way to wean off the... I can't use that word, so I'm just going to move off of it. But they wean themselves off of dependency of U.S. taxpayer money. No, they're not. They're not. So I just don't understand how he thinks making these two conflicting points in the context of the same panel discussion is going to work out well for him. Calling people who watch Nick Fuentes' show losers, you're not going to win your argument by doing that. He knows that better than anyone, but he keeps doing it anyway. How is it that our resources are not well suited to use on our people, but it somehow makes sense to feed into the victim mentality of the Israeli government and funnel our resources over to them? Government handouts, totally okay when it comes to Israel, not okay when it comes to helping Americans at a time when our economy is falling apart. This is why you're losing, Ben. Wake up, read a book.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.
Here's why your shower pressure keeps getting weaker every month and what it's doing to your body. Let me show you what's actually happening inside that shower head while you're standing there waiting for the water to rinse off. Your water is trying to push through all this buildup. Calcium deposits, magnesium, rust, and chlorine that's been accumulating for months or years. It's literally choking your water flow to a trickle. But here's what's really messed up. While you're standing there for 20, sometimes 30 minutes trying to rinse off, you're absorbing way more chlorine, heavy metals, and toxic chemicals through your skin. Your skin is soaking in this stuff 3 times longer than it should be. The longer you're exposed, the more damage to your skin, collagen, and health. A lot of people think, oh, I'll just buy a new shower head from Home Depot. But look, that doesn't fix anything. Within months, all those minerals clog the new one too. You're back to weak pressure and prolonged toxic exposure. So here's what we did differently. We designed a shower head with 3 mineral spheres that removes what's causing the clog while boosting pressure. The first sphere removes chlorine, fluoride, heavy metals, and bacteria before they build up. The second sphere adds good minerals that soften hard water so it flows better. And the third sphere adjusts pH while channeling water through jets that multiply the pressure. Watch what happens when you install this. Your showers go from 20 frustrating minutes to 5 minutes of spa-like pressure. And it stays that way because nothing can clog it. Plus, you're using 30% less water.
You have a problem with Jews in general, though.
Yes, I do.
And I had continued to watch the.
So as you all know, there's a massive right-wing civil war currently ongoing. You have Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin versus Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens to one extent or another. Then you got people who are...
All right, so we've been covering this about the last 2 days, this whole feud on the right. This happened amid Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes' interview. Ever since this interview has happened, I've said time and time again that there's been this divide that everyone's talking about, this massive divide, and that is that MAGA has been split, right? So now MAGA, there's 2. It's MAGA and there's America First, and that America First and MAGA are no longer one thing, but now they are in fact 2 different things. So let's hear what Kyle has to say about it. Shout out to Secular Talks. You guys go check his channel out when you get a chance.
We're like sort of in the middle trying to make peace, like Alex Jones and Matt Walsh. Hey, why can't we all just get along? That sort of shit. It's really showing no signs of slowing down. If anything, it's speeding up, right? Ted Cruz is now leaning into the fight against Tucker Carlson. You have the pro-Israel right versus the anti-Israel right, and there's, all these different dividing lines. And it's all happening because MAGA is falling apart, because Trump is making horrible decisions. It's a mess. He's a mess. He's an absolute mess. When, your trade war is destroying the economy, this is where you end up. Your own people end up at each other's throats. When your endless warmongering is, busting up the myth that you were ever anti-war, this is what happens. This is the result. So anyway, Nick Fuentes, not to be deterred, cannot help himself, and he decided to go after Tucker Carlson, one of the only fellow travelers in this war, this right-wing civil war that he has. Here we go.
You're speaking currently on early release Patreon for the Sean Ryan Show, talking shit in circular statements for 2 hours about you. You are winning. Stay strong, brother. Just like
Thank you for the big super chat. I appreciate it. Yeah, I don't like that he keeps calling me an anti-Semite. What the fuck is that? He didn't call me an anti-Semite on the show or in person, so what is that? We eat dinner for 3 hours, then we do a show, we do this big interview, now I'm an anti-Semite. Since when?
So let me get it straight. First, I was a gay fed in my parents' basement. Then we're totally kosher. Now I'm an anti-Semite. So what the fuck is that? You know? He goes on for 3 years, he's been going around telling everybody, oh, he's a fed. He was a fed at J6. And what else did he say about me? Everything you can think of. He was trash talking me to anybody who would listen.
Getting circular statements for 2 hours about you. You are winning. Stay strong, brother.
Dude, I'm cooked. Nick is so mad about this. he said, so first I was a gay fed in my parents' bedroom. Mind you, if you go back and you watch this interview, Tucker's like sitting across the table and his arms are folded. He's like, Nick's like talking. He's like, I'm sorry I called you gay, by the way. And Nick just smiles. Like he doesn't debunk it. He doesn't say, yeah, man, that's cool. You know, like, people did that all the time when I was young. Or, like, yeah, man, people joke like that all the time. He didn't say anything. He just, like, smiled. So I'm like, come on, Nick. You can't get mad. You can't get mad at the whole gay fed thing. You didn't really push back on that too much, Nick. But the anti-Semite thing, I see why he's kind of crashing out about that. Because he's just like, he didn't say that on the show. I mean, we have dinner for 3 hours. And now, like, I'm an anti-Semite. So I rewinded it so you guys could look at that one more time.
Thank you for the big super chat. I appreciate it. Yeah, I don't like that he keeps calling me an anti-Semite. What the fuck is that? He didn't call me an anti-Semite on the show or in person, so what is that? You know, like, well, you know, we eat dinner for 3 hours, then we do a show, we do this big interview, now I'm an anti-Semite. Since when? So let me get it straight. First, I was a gay fed in my parents' basement. Then we're totally kosher, now I'm an anti-Semite. So what the fuck is that? You know? He goes on for 3 years, he's been going around telling everybody, oh, he's a fed. He was a.
So if you guys are confused and you're like, well, I thought people said he was a white supremacist and like he hates Israel and why is he mad that someone's even calling him an anti-Semite? Because Nick is just he's more America first, right? Like he's just more like, he doesn't like the aid to Israel. He doesn't like that all this money is going there. No one really says why it's going there, what it's going there for. If Israel needs more and more money, we just seem to give it and no one ever questions them. Everyone kind of okays everything. He's more like kind of in that camp. Yes, he has the whole thing where he rather live around whites and, you know, all this other stupid shit. But I don't pay attention to that because what I pay attention to is what he's saying when he's reacting to something and his opinion about it. And I just kind of move on from there. So he's upset about this because he feels like Tucker Carlson's being fake. He's like, dude, I spent like half the day with this dude and like he didn't say any of this stuff and then now it's like I'm an anti-Semite. Like what is that? Like so let's keep watching.
Fed at J6 and what else did he say about me? Everything you can think of. He was trash talking me to anybody who would listen for years. To Alex Jones, to groups of people. I heard this secondhand from a lot of people. This guy was talking shit about me for years. He worked on that hit piece. Then he goes with Candace Owens finally and says, you know, oh, he's a weird gay kid, came from nowhere, he's the Fed, he's the David Duke, blah, blah, blah. Then I do a show, none of that. Oh, let's just not talk about that stuff. Okay, if we're friends, sure, let's not talk about it. Now I'm an anti-Semite. Oh, okay. So what is that? I don't like it. I don't like fakers. I don't like fakers. I don't like people that, I don't like the put on. Like, just cut this shit. Cut the act. Like, I'm so over that kind of... It's deeply frustrating to just kind of have people lying to your face playing games like that. Oh my gosh. Maybe I'm just not cut out for politics, but this is very, like, two-faced. You know, is it because they're on his ass now, or what is that? But he's going around saying, I disagree with his anti-Semitism. What the fuck? Sorry, are you Ben Shapiro now? What is anti-Semitic about what I say? Honest to God. I go on the show every night. I say, I don't hate anybody. Don't attack people, physically or verbally. We don't hate them. We don't want to hurt them. We don't want to take their rights. We just want them to be loyal to America. They can't have power if they're abusing it. What is anti-Semitic about that? Honestly. And he's totally playing a game with me right now where he's trying to go around and say, you know, we understand and we pity him. And we just want to know why people like him. Why? So you can reverse engineer it and make some other guy that isn't like me at all? You want to know why people like me? Why? So you can kill me and then take my audience? Is that why? Do you actually think that's what Tucker's doing? Oh my God. You want to pander to my audience, take me out, and then you're going to give my audience to Rufo and Lomez? Or J.D. Vance or something?
It's all bullshit.
So he's already in the midst of like a 4-front war, and he goes, let's add a fifth. Let's add a fifth. So Candace Owens, who's nominally on his side in this right-wing civil war, he also hates her and goes after her all the time. Is there anybody that he hasn't gone after? It's just so funny that in this moment where, like, the schism is there, the right is fucking imploding, and you're having your moment, and, you know, you're winning the fight. Look at Ben Shapiro's numbers on Daily Wire. Look at fucking, you know, they've imploded. Mark Levin was always just propped up because he was on Fox News and shit. He was never like, you know, was never actually the force of his own personality. He couldn't make it in the free market of online media, right? But, like, you're winning, and what do? You turn to the only other person on your side in the fight, and you take some shots at him. That's amazing. And I'm sure he's saying that, like, oh, Tucker's the one who started it. But, Nick, the reason why Tucker says those things is because you said, quote, Hitler was really fucking cool. I admire Hitler. You denied the...
Now, come on, Nick. So when he lists those things that he just said, when he's like, I say this, don't hurt people, don't physically hurt people, we don't hate anyone, we don't want to kill anyone. He's like, honestly, what is anti-Semitic about that? Well, nothing, but it sounds pretty anti-Semitic if you say that you think Hitler's cool or that you admire Hitler. I mean, I'm just saying, just, you know, one of the men in history who single-handedly called for the death of almost every single Jew on the planet. That just is just not cool. You know, that I would say, Nick, that's like this much anti-Semitic. Like that's probably where it got you at, Nick. That's probably what it was.
The numbers in the Holocaust. You had that clip talking about, oh, can you really bake 6 million cookies? You know, this standard Holocaust denial shit you did. Maybe that's why he says you're an anti-Semite. Maybe that's it. That's all, right? That, like, you have moments like that on camera. Is it really a big jump to, oh, he admires Hitler? Maybe a touch anti-Semitic. Is that unreasonable? Oh man, that's wild. That is wild. I love it. No, in all seriousness, he's playing an amazing role right now. Fuentes is. Whether or not he realizes it, he's acting like a left-wing op. I think it's fair to say. And by the way, I bet Shapiro would make that point, that he thinks this guy's a left-wing op. Now, he's not. He's a real guy with real opinions, and he's giving them, and he's winning that battle on the right at the moment. But functionally, he is dividing and conquering the right wing. He is, for sure. Like, I view the role he plays as very similar to the role that Jimmy Dore played on the left in, like, 2017, 2018, where he was, he ended up being functionally a right-wing op, even though he wasn't, right? Where, like, he spent all his time, let me go after AOC, let me go after Bernie, let me say that the most left in Congress and the Senate are not left enough, and only shit on them exclusively, and never go after the Republicans. And so you end up dividing and conquering your side. That's what he's doing. He's going,
the Prophet ﷺ said, the best charity is giving water. $100 gives 100 people clean water for 5 years. Right now, humanity is bringing clean water to the places that need it most.
Look, all these right-wingers, Donald Trump, not right-wing enough, not fascist enough. Ben Shapiro, not right-wing enough, not fascist enough. Mark Levin, not right-wing enough, not fascist enough. We're the true right-wingers. We are the real right-wing, the true principled right-wingers. And, we're the only path forward. And so it's divide and conquer. And that's why the end result is the right is plummeting in relevance. I mean, they hold every lever of power, but MAGA is just falling apart right in front of our eyes. Trumpism is collapsing right in front of our eyes. So I genuinely and sincerely want to be like, hey man, thank you for playing this role of imploding the right. I really appreciate you imploding the right. We've been trying to do that. I've been trying to do it full time since 2012. Fuck if I won that battle. I didn't win that battle. I'm an outsider lobbing bombs. You're from within and planting mortars. That's what you're doing. So I love it. He can't help himself. He's going to go after Candace again. He's going to go after Tucker again. Anybody else who's nominally on his side, eventually you'll catch a stray too. Can't help himself. He can't fucking help himself. And then now Nick is dealing with, there's members of his own audience that are going, well, what the fuck? I signed up for being anti-Semitic. And now you're saying don't be anti-Semitic? Your whole thing was being anti-Semitic. Aren't you supposed to just say, yes, I am that, and explain why it's good? So there's some people in his audience that are going, hey, man, what the fuck? Why are you moderating so hard? We don't want you to moderate. We want you to go all the way. We're anti-Semitic. We want you to echo our beliefs. But no, I mean, he decides to do this instead. Decides to take shots at Tucker. You know, it's funny. Like, it's the old quotes. Just, you know, he can't outrun him. He can't outrun Hitler was really fucking cool, and I admire Hitler. He can't outrun He can't outrun women shouldn't have the right to vote. He can't outrun boys and girls should get married as teens. He can't outrun be against women's rights, be against them getting educated, ban birth control, contraceptives. Women shouldn't be in the workforce, ban them from voting, ban pornography, ban transgenderism, homosexuality, sodomy. He can't outrun Catholic Taliban rule in America is what we should have. He can't outrun wanting to go back to the Middle Ages or giving the death penalty to Jews, atheists, and witches. It's hard. It's hard to outrun those ones, man. To me, one of the big ones is, I fucking hate the poor, I love the rich. That's a rough one. That's a rough one. I don't know. You can't claim to be leading the working class revolution, right? He did this whole spiel against Tucker a while back, where he was like, what happened, Tucker? I thought you were supposed to be representing me, the disaffected young white man. But, like, you forgot and you started calling me a gay fed. You forgot who you're supposed to be representing. Like, you're just smearing the people who you're supposed to be supporting. Well, Nick, you kind of did that too when you said, quote, I fucking hate the poor, I love the rich. You can't really lead that working class revolution either when you say some shit like that, right? So anyway, keep going, fella. Keep going. Keep going. I bet Tucker's watching this going, what the fuck? I invite you on I have dinner with you, tell you it's going to be a softball interview. I give you a softball interview with minimal fucking pushback. Basically, the only pushback is he's a real guy with real opinions. And he's giving them, and he's winning that battle on the right at the moment. But functionally, he is dividing and conquering.
See, in that battle on the right that Kyle is talking about, he's talking about the battle of MAGA imploding. The battle of now, after that interview with Tucker Carlson and Nick, it's like, oh, America first versus MAGA. They've basically been split down the middle. So this is the divide that everyone has been talking about and why people are going so crazy. It's absolutely hilarious. All right, guys, let's move to the last clip of the live stream. Are we on the last clip? No, not yet, almost. We got one more before that. We got the amazing Lucas. I actually want to end it with Sean Ryan and Truth Be Told. So we got the amazing Lucas. And he covered 2 white Texans tried to take over a Haitian island. Do you guys know a lot about this? I haven't gotten a chance to do a lot of research on this. I picked it up a couple hours before I was going to jump on live stream with you guys a little bit after the first live stream. I haven't done that much research into this, so if you guys have any info about it, just drop it in the chat.
Make this one simple change when filling out your FAFSA to cut your EFC and SAI in half.
Lineage of evil. Oh my goodness. So this is why I use the term lineage of evil, because that's what it is. It's evil begets evil that begets evil, all right? Evil hasn't changed and disappeared. It got a Wi-Fi plan, all right? That's what evil did in present day. And speaking of evil, we have these 2 white ignorants. And this story is really sad. It's really hilariously sad because the economy is so bad for many white youth that they feel they don't have a future. Damn. That the best future they have is to go back into the past. Damn. Do you understand that little Timmy is no longer thinking about flying cars? That little Timmy is thinking about, what if I had a plantation? what if I had a plantation?
Now, some of you guys who are familiar with Lucas, you already know how he is. Lucas is on the left. He could be far left to some people. Lucas does not bother me. I've been watching him for a number of years. His personality is his personality, just like we all have one. So we're just going to watch Lucas, what he has to say about these 2 Texas men and what they did to this Haitian island. And then we're going to move on to the Sean Ryan episode where he's talking to the gentleman about Roblox and pedophiles. So let's finish this.
And slaves. That's what's going on right now. And you have 2 little Timmys who are looking to take up the family business and the family business of colonization. Damn. I want you to have a seat because the story is crazy.
you have these two little white ignorants, and their game plan, all right, is to take over an island in Haiti and to yeet all the men, okay, delete them, and to have the children and women as slaves for their pleasure.
Come on now, dog.
Now, we need to pause there for a second. They could have gone anywhere, bruh. Think about this. They could have gone to any European place. They could have gone to any white-dominated place. They could have gone, Scotland Yards, whatever, bruh. They chose to go to Haiti. Now, how ignorant do you have to be to go to a place where they had a whole freaking revolution, where anyone white during that revolution was donezo? That's the place you're going to go and try and conquer?
But Brondo's got what plants crave.
It's got electrolytes.
That's what's going on. Bro, the white ignorance right now the economy is destroying them. You have to understand, they have nothing to live for, unfortunately. They are at the breaking point where they're trying to relive the past, fam. Okay? Do you understand how bad it is for them? And I say this not to mock or ridicule. I say this because what is going on with the country? Where are the Chads, all right? Where are the Chads in the white community? Y'all have got to do something about these kids. These are 20-year-olds. At 20-year-old, I was playing video games and, worrying about women. That's what, in homework, I'm assuming. That's what I'm thinking. How are you talking about, hey, we've got to go to Haiti and, live out this colonization fantasy at 20 years old? Bro, is it really that bad?
I have nothing. No one.
Now, I want you to understand how the plan was going to go. Because the plan, one, went to the fire academy. Problem is, he dropped out. So, we are dealing with bottom tier white ignorance. That's what you have to understand. Before, they'd be able to, get a job in a company somewhere. Before, they'd be able to, probably become president of the United States. Now, since all the DEI that they wanted to get rid of, which, I don't know, didn't really negatively impact us, it negatively impacted them because the only people who've been DEI throughout history, okay, historically speaking, has been them.
He's out of line, but he's right.
How are you going to tell me you built a country, because that's what they say, this country is for us, but then want to say, wait, so the country that you built that was for you doesn't benefit you? Is that what you're telling me? That doesn't even make sense according to their own white supremacist, rhetoric. According to their own rhetoric, it doesn't make sense. So little Timmy's not so bright. He drops out. So little Timmy has another bright idea. I'm going to go to Thailand, all right, and learn how to sail, okay? Because I guess they were going to put their army on the sailboats and sail to Haiti. I don't understand. Were you all trying to put the army on Spirit Airlines? you all gonna have an army on Spirit Airlines to go and conquer Haiti? Was that the game plan? I don't know. Anyways, he goes to Thailand, right? Now, when he gets to Thailand, he comes to discover that he doesn't have the money. He doesn't have enough money to take the sailboat lessons. This is where you have to stop, bro. This is where you have to take a deep breath and see, if you can't afford Thailand, fam, you really got to figure out what's going on. You really got.
Now it sounds like he's being facetious here, but he kind of is, because Thailand is probably one of the cheapest places on the planet we can go and visit, and your dollar stretches far there. So he's like, listen, he makes this plan and he's out in Thailand. He keeps laughing about it, but he's like, dude, if you get there and you can't afford anything, you should have just stopped right there. Like your plan, you should have just quit while you were ahead, and your plan should have just stopped right there. Let's keep watching.
Figure it out. You got a big problem, bro. You trying to colonize a whole freaking island, right? You trying to colonize a whole area, take over the women and children, yeet them in, but you need to colonize your checkbook, my dude. You need to colonize your checking account, fam. You can't even get your checking account in order, but you're gonna rule a whole Haitian island, a whole Haitian area? That's what you thinking?
Come on now, dog.
Now, when it comes to Tweedledee, okay, because remember there was two of them. The second one, well, this one's like, I'm going to join the Air Force, right? I'm going to join the Air Force. He gets in the Air Force, and his big idea is, hey, I'm going to recruit homeless people, okay? That's what his big idea was. His big idea was to recruit homeless people so they could take over this area in Haiti. That's what they were doing. Bruh. Listen, help you, help me. Genuinely. Because if stories like this get out, all right, I'm glad this story didn't make the news. I really am. I'm genuinely glad. Because it's going to make us look bad. It's going to make Black Americans look really bad. If you have people in Haiti, if this gets out to the diaspora, if this gets out to Europe, that these are the people that put us in chains, bro, we're not going to have any respect. We're not going to have any respect. Y'all got colonized by little Timmy who went to Thailand and didn't have enough money. Y'all got colonized by little Timmy who went to the Air Force to recruit homeless people. These are the high IQ people that put y'all in chains. I'm just saying it's not going to be a good look.
But Brondo's got what plants crave.
It's got electrolytes.
So this is troubling times, bro. They were trying to have like a GoFundMe plantation, right? Bro, you got white elites using their corporations to screw over elections and control elections and to buy up land, and you got
what plants crave.
It's got electrolytes.
So this is troubling times, bro. They were trying to have like a GoFundMe plantation, right? Bro, you got white elites using their corporations to screw over elections and control elections and to buy up.
Bro, you can't make this up. I will be dead if they hit their target. They probably hit that damn target. A GoFundMe to restore a plantation. People are hilarious. That's just hilarious.
Land, and you got two ignorants trying to use homeless people to take over an area in Haiti.
All I can say, I was a dumbass, voted for Trump.
Bruh, in the meantime, between time, they talk about black on black crime. They're talking about Chicago. Y'all, white people, listen, help your people out, okay? Listen, you don't even have to be a white elite. Like white upper class, help your people out, bro. They are struggling right now. The SNAP benefits aren't snapping, okay? There's no more raisins in the potato salad because they can't afford the raisins. Damn. And to add the cherry on top of this, they're being charged with, how do we say, PDF? That's correct. Because they had some, engagement with a minor. That's where The jokes just write themselves at this point. I don't know what to tell you. Every accusation is a confession. They talking about homicide and everything else. 99.9% per capita. They are the leader in. But they want to talk about, well, what about Chicago? What about literally everything else? What about that? Okay. These are 20-year-olds. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Now, I will say it was very hard to find a picture of them. Go figure. But this isn't national news, right? This is just a day in the neighborhood. This is how so desensitized we have gotten to the lineage of evil. That, what happened? They were just trying to, they were going to just, destroy and pillage and rape and plunder. That's what they were going to do? Oh, okay, that makes sense. Was it two white boys? Yeah, that makes sense, right? But let a black person with schizophrenia who has a...
I'm not going to lie here. We don't see Ben Shapiro or Benny Johnson or any white conservatives reacting to this story, right? I mean, it's kind of a big deal. They might say it's not a big deal. I think it's kind of a big deal. So, I mean, Lucas is making a good point here. You're not going to see any white conservatives react to the story. Probably not, but I'll watch for the next 2 days to see if anybody pops up with it.
A history of mental illness. Let him do something, and it's just like, oh my God, look at this. That really goes to show you that they know that's not our behavior.
Wake up.
We're so close Thanks to generous believers, we're nearly there to save the house.
And it's just like, sense. They were going to just, destroy and pillage and rape and plunder. That's what they were going to do? Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Was it two white boys? Yeah, that makes sense, right? But let a black person with schizophrenia who has a history of mental illness, let him do something, and it's just like, oh my God, look at this. That really goes to show you that they know that's not our behavior.
Wake up, nigga.
Because if this was our behavior, it wouldn't be anything new to them. They would be desensitized to it. They will have a full-on war. They will be trying to colonize, certain areas of the country. And it's just like, well, yeah, that's, that's what it is. A pig gets dirty, and that's what, the Indians do. That's what they do. To this day. So we got to hold ourselves to a higher standard. We really do. Because think about it. Our black youth are just like, yo, I'm just trying to get out of, the hood. I'm just trying to get an education. I want to help our moms. I want to help our pops. Right? That's our mindset. Their mindset is like, hey, what if we colonize and pillage an area in Africa? Okay, we'll take the children and the women to be, for our pleasure. How about that? Anyways, guys, that's the video. Let me know what you guys think. Whether or not, I don't know, what's the spin? I guess there's always a positive spin that they try to do. Well, it would benefit, Haiti to be colonized. This would be a benefit to them. You know how they do that. All their crime and wicked behavior, it's a benefit. You have to understand, that's a benefit. That's an advantage, to you guys. Lord, just evil. Or if you believe lineage of evil is gonna lineage of evil. It is what it is. Anyways, but I know black on black crime. I know Chicago, right? Yes, absolutely. Anyways, if you happen to disagree, you know where to find me Thursday through Saturday, disagreement day. Number on the screen, call me, duke it out. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please feel free.
All right, shout out to Lucas. So, hey, I got to appreciate him for his opinion. One thing he does is Lucas is going to be himself. Those of you guys who've watched Lucas on the channel with me before, we know that, right? Both sides here all the time, always. So I appreciate Lucas and his opinion. Shout out to the amazing Lucas. All right, guys, so we're going to move to the last clip of the live stream. Sean Ryan has a guest on, and they are talking about the largest children's game in the world, which is Roblox. And Roblox happens to support pedophiles. Now, some of you might be thinking, why are you using the word support, Q? That's strong. That's a strong allege or a high accusation. It's not an accusation. Just watch this conversation and watch what they say. I watched it last night. My wife played it for me, and there was a whole lot of cussing in there. So I'm guessing the person went back and edited some of this out. Truth be told, shout out to him. It's his channel. So because he is a Christian channel, he probably went in there and beeped everything out. But Sean Ryan is just going off, right? Like, he is just infuriated about this, as we all should be. So let's take a look at the conversation.
I wish this was a joke, but it's not. Roblox, the largest children's game in the world, is literally banning people who catch predators, while predators are openly recruiting kids right on their platform. And it gets darker. There is an entire cult in Roblox and TikTok and Minecraft and Instagram using satanic symbols and grooming children and linking them directly to explicit content. And Roblox, at least on their platform, they know about it. You may think these games are harmless, but when in truth it could mean your child is only 2 clicks away from being groomed right in front of your nose. Hit that like button. Let's bring this to the light to more people, and let me know what you think in the comments. Let's check it out. This is from the Sean Ryan podcast.
One of the most popular games that the 764 cult is luring their victims out.
Roblox, Minecraft, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat.
Okay, tell me about Roblox and Minecraft, because I don't know anything about gaming. I don't game. I don't.
Understood. I don't either, but it's part of the investigation. You gotta, a lot of times I'm investigating, I end up on these games or apps, and Roblox is the one that I'll focus on the most, because that seems like the majority of the issues right now.
I know little kids that use that game.
There's 75 million active daily users. So it's the largest children's game in the world right now.
I've been telling people too about what you've been telling me for at least 6 months now about the 764 code. None of
Yeah, most people just, they throw their iPad at their kid, they put them on Roblox, and like I said earlier, little cartoon characters running around the screen, no harm in it. But, something that most people, see, like, you didn't seem to even know, but, like, they just banned a guy, there's like a young guy who was actually groomed and had issues for himself on Roblox. He has a popular YouTube channel. He started catching predators on Roblox, just regular old predators that are interested in children, not these guys. And he got, to my knowledge, there could be more. There was 6 arrests. I saw 6 mugshots. They came from this one guy. His name is Schlepp, and he went like mainstream on the media because Roblox sent him a cease and desist letter for being a vigilante on their platform. They did a press release saying that they're banning vigilantes from Roblox. Did a whole statement. You should see this press release. It's unbelievable. Did their excuse, all their excuses of why they think vigilantes should not be a part of Roblox. There are a ton of predators.
Is it publicly available?
Yeah,
We'll post that up right now too.
Which he doesn't actually post it during this episode, so I want to share it with you real quick so you can see what he's talking about. Right here, this is the article. More on our removal of vigilantes from Roblox. So we're sharing this about why it was necessary to remove. He doesn't actually.
Why they think vigilantes should press release because Roblox sent him a cease and desist letter for being a vigilante on their platform. They did a press.
Now, when I reacted to this earlier today, the chat went crazy. You guys literally went insane. And so did I. I'm thinking to myself, a cease and desist letter. Really, Roblox? A guy actually aids to 6 arrests happening that he ends up finding on your platform, right? People who are hunting children. People who want to harm children. 6 arrests. And instead of you sending him a plaque, a congratulations, a thank you, you send him a cease and desist letter and you're like, hey, this guy's a vigilante. I'm like, okay, Roblox supports pedophiles on their platform. Why else would you send someone a cease and desist letter? Obviously, it doesn't bother you. Or you want it to keep happening. It's one of the two. Ridiculous.
Press release saying that they're banning vigilantes from Roblox. Did a whole statement. You should see this press release. It's unbelievable. Did their excuse, all their excuses of why they think vigilantes should not be a part of Roblox. There are a ton of predators.
Is it publicly available?
Yeah,
We'll post that up right now too.
Which he doesn't actually post it during this episode, so I want to share it with you real quick so you can see what he's talking about. Right here, this is the article. More on our removal of vigilantes from Roblox. So we're sharing this about why it was necessary to remove vigilantes from Roblox and the ways in which we review and act on reports of abuse on Roblox. And, they're like, well, I mean, these vigilantes are well-intentioned, but we've banned them because what they're doing is unacceptable and create an unsafe environment for the users. There's even this article right here that I found talking about how Roblox sparks outrage because they're comparing the vigilante predator hunters to the actual predators. You want to talk about what's unsafe? It's these predators, these men that are getting on there, maybe women too, that are getting on there and exploiting our children for their own fantasies or even financial gain. I want to share with you that there was some years back when I was teaching. Fortunately, I had a student, a young man, who had sent pictures to some girl, some bad pictures of some girl of himself that he shouldn't have sent. And because the girl had already sent him some pictures, which, again, that's a whole nother conversation. That's ridiculous. That's horrible. Tell your kids stop sending those kinds of things on the internet. Horrible. Like, obviously, this is going to cause you issues. Dick had sent pictures to some girl, some bad pictures of some girl of himself that he shouldn't have sent. And because the girl had already sent him some pictures, which, again, that's a whole nother conversation. That's ridiculous. That's horrible. Tell your kids stop sending those kinds of things on the internet. Horrible. Like, obviously, this is going to cause you issues down the road. It happens all the time. But for whatever reason, these kids will do this, and then they learn the hard way of what happens. Well, in the case of my
And at some point in the video I watched, Sean Ryan got extremely upset about it. He said, listen, like, parents, keep your kids off this crap. Like, don't be the parent that says, oh, this isn't going to happen to me. I monitor my kids. He's like, no, like, they want this stuff to happen. It is going to happen to you. So keep your kids off of Roblox. He says he's been saying this for some time now to people.
A former student. This was not a young girl. This was some organization, probably like this 764 cult, who is actually taking these pictures of these kids and saying, hey, I got these nudes of you. Here's your Instagram account. Here's your Facebook account, whatever. I'm going to send these pictures of you to every one of them unless you give me $500. And they got $500 out of this student. But then once he did that, they wanted more. And so he came to me and I had to counsel him, and praise God that, he got through it. But there are kids out there that have taken their own lives. A kid that has a good future ahead of him, someone's daughter, someone's son, that then kills himself because of this kind of activity that starts on a children's game called Roblox. So there is massive danger in that. That's why I'm making this video, to help us see the truth so that we can be awake to what's really going on. Let's continue. So this is the daughter, someone's son, that then kills himself because of this kind of activity that starts on a children's game called Roblox. So there is massive danger in that. That's why I'm making this video, to help us see the truth so that we can be awake to what's really going on. Let's continue.
So this is the official statement from Roblox, saying why vigilantes shouldn't be taking down pedophiles and sextortionists off of their platform. They want these people on there. They want these people on there to
That's essentially what it's meant to me.
Your children. And your children are on here, and I'm telling you, you better get them off. You better get them off. It is going to happen to you.
Yes, these people, they're sitting predators, if you've noticed.
What parent?
Yeah, I agree with James. He says you can sense the passion there, because Sean Ryan gets upset because if they're sending out a cease and desist letter, essentially you can assume that they want this stuff to happen, or if you don't want it, you're okay with it, because why would you send out a cease and desist letter and not a congratulations or thank this person, something, right? Some type of, if anything, he should be getting some type of a hero plaque, but instead he gets called a vigilante. So that's why you see that sense of passion there when Sean Ryan's like, don't be the one that says it's not going to happen to my kids. He's like, it is going to happen. Get them off there. Don't keep them on there.
And keeps their kid on there after we're telling them this shit.
I don't know, man. I don't know, but it's unbelievable to me, and it's predators hang out in spots where they can prey on victims. So when they're on Roblox, and it's the largest children's game in the world, obviously
it's the largest children's game in the world.
Yeah, largest in the world. So when
largest children's game in the world doesn't want people on the platform saving kids.
That's exactly.
Listening to this, people? The largest video game platform in the world doesn't want to take any measures at all to save kids. In fact, they made a press release discouraging it.
Yes.
A cease and desist.
Cease and desist
not a press release.
Both.
And you're paying this platform money. There's millions of people that are going to listen to this, and I'm telling you, you are complicit in this.
And then there's other servers where they're blatantly wearing 764, shirts as.
Yeah, and I want to tell you about that 764 cult as well. It's dangerous. I'm going to let him finish here, and then we'll just talk about it. But realize that he's talking 75 million active users every single day. People, like parents, they think it's just a cartoon game, a cute little game where people walk around. But there's a billion chats going on every day. And some of those chats is exactly what these predators are doing to lure your child into a private server, even off Roblox, to extort them, to groom them for their own sick, twisted fantasies. Again, I hope you're paying attention.
Characters, they got upside down crosses, they got satanic symbols, They have people in the chat logs talking about grooming. They have all these things, but they're profiting directly off of this stuff.
They want this shit happening.
I guess.
They want this shit happening.
Hard to believe.
Otherwise, they wouldn't be sending cease and desist letters to people who are trying to save kids.
Well, not all the time. Sometimes they lure them straight in.
And he's showing them an example here of how they do it. I kept this little bit in there because that's what he's doing.
Game. Like in a children's game that should be blocking all of this.
But they're not. They're not blocking much of any of it, actually. And I do know that when this story broke, there was some money lost on Roblox account, but it wasn't enough. But they did. I got an article here. Roblox CEO called on to resign after sending cease and desist letters to these YouTube vigilantes, trying to get them blocked, YouTube accounts being taken down because of these people that are trying to call out these pedophiles, these people that are grooming our kids. And so I was going to let you know about that. Roblox chief executive is facing a wave of fury after his company sent a cease and desist letter to a YouTuber known for exposing alleged child predators on the online gaming platform. And it goes in and talks about, I think this might be Schlep right here. And this article here says, modern day terrorism, how the online extremist network 764 is threatening teens' lives. This is the one I'm talking about that I believe was probably behind the one that sextorted my former student. You can see them inside Roblox with 764 in their name. Also, by the way, this is Minecraft, TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat. But they'll do 764 in their name, on their shirts that they're wearing inside the game, upside down crosses, satanic imagery, all of that. You can look into this for yourself, but it's on there. Make sure you're paying attention to it because it's becoming a big deal. I mean, this article itself, I believe, is only like a few days old. People are finally awakening to it. If you see messages like join com or where the com girls at or join for fun or dark roleplay games, this is in Roblox. Don't join it. I mean, just tell your kid to get off the game. Find a different game. I remember back in the day when I used to play Mario Brothers. I used to jump over blocks.
And these are things that are like within Roblox, but the kids don't notice it. That's why he said that they'll guide them to a totally different server off of Roblox, and this is where they'll extort them at. Like, they'll just take them somewhere different. And like he said, the parents see, like, you know, we see these cartoon characters walking around the screen, so he thinks it's no big deal. He's like, but it's these dozens and these thousands of chats that are going on, and this is where the children are being extorted at. This is why you see so much passion from Sean Ryan. He's like, because the fact that they sent out a cease and desist letter instead of congratulating this person for aiding to those 6 arrests is extremely alarming. It's distressing. Parents should not want the children on Roblox.
And squish little walking mushrooms and save the princess. But now you have these games that are like, it's social now. You're not just by yourself. So my advice, if your kid wants to play video games, do single player games. Don't let them be online. And if they are, make sure it's only with friends and people they know. Don't let them out there alone, because 1 Peter 5:8 clearly tells us that your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. Satan is out there after our kids. Isaiah 5:20 says, woe to those who call evil good and good evil. There are people out there that have evil intentions, but to them it's good. And they're taking advantage of our children right under our noses, right there on their iPad, right there on some cell phone. And we think it's a gaming thing. You know, we think it's all fun and games until something like this happens to your child. Man, I mean, I think I've said enough. I could tell you about how they had Charlie Kirk assassination games where people would watch him get assassinated over and over and over again. I mean, they can make games about whatever they want, and Roblox doesn't do anything. So I'm going to be making sure that I talk to my kids about this. I already have. No more Roblox. We're not going to be on this game. So you can train your kids in the way they should go according to righteousness, the way the Bible says. But parents, we're not sharing this to scare you, but because it is the reality of what's happening all around us, and we need to know so we can be informed and allow our kids that safety that they deserved. Jesus says, woe to those who cause one of these little ones to sin, for it'd be better to have a millstone tied around your neck and thrown into the sea. He wouldn't say that unless there are people in this world that want to cause danger to just our kids. It's sick, it's twisted, it's dark, but Jesus is shining his light. And so let this light come through this camera into your heart.
World. Obviously,
It's the largest children.
And kills himself because of this kind of activity that starts on a children's game called Roblox. So there is massive danger in that. That's why I'm making this video, to help us see the truth so that we can be awake to what's really going on. Let's continue.
So this is the official statement from Roblox saying why vigilantes shouldn't be taking down pedophiles and sextortionists off of their platform. They want these people on there. They want these people on there to
That's essentially what it's meant to me.
Your children, and your children are on here, and I'm telling you, you better get them off. You better get them off. It is going to happen to you.
Yes, these people, they're sitting predators, if you've noticed. Every parent.
Do you know his last name?
David Bouse. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Eric's last name?
Eric is Castle.
What is it?
Cassle.
Cassell?
Yeah.
Or something like that?
Yeah.
My wife just showed me that the owner of Roblox, she says Eric passed away about 3 years ago. So she says it's been wicked ever since then. She's like, it wasn't always bad, but it seems like ever since the original owner of Roblox passed away, that it's been like that. This is who's there now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't know what you guys think. Nah, man. He looks suspect, bro.
He's a part of it.
He looks suspect, guys. He looks suspect. I don't know about him. So this is the guy who was okay with a cease and desist letter going out, instead of saying thank you for helping people, thank you for helping 6 arrests. Instead, he sent out a cease and desist letter. He was okay with Roblox doing that. I don't know, man. He looks suspect.
What parent keeps their kid on there after we're telling them this shit?
I don't know, man. I don't know, but it's unbelievable to me, and it's predators hang out in spots where they can prey on victims. So when they're on Roblox, and it's the largest children's game in the world, obviously
it's the largest children's game in the world.
Yeah, largest in the world. So when
largest children's game in the world doesn't want people on the platform saving kids.
That's
Are
exactly
you listening to this, people? The largest video game platform in the world doesn't want to take any measures at all to save kids. In fact, they made a press release discouraging it.
Yes.
A cease and desist.
Cease and desist and a press release. Both.
And you're paying this platform money. There's millions of people that are going to listen to this, and I'm telling you, you are complicit in this.
And then there's other servers where they're blatantly wearing.
And the reason why he feels like that is because we've seen that stuff happen, right? I can't tell you how many times I've seen friends or family members with their children, especially like easily 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and they're just like milking their parents for money to do all of this stuff on Roblox. And you know, you're hearing about Roblox, and they're, no, it's not a big deal. It's just this, it's just that. And now look at this. Sean Ryan goes on record to say, you people, and he says millions because those are the views his podcast get. Millions and millions of people listen to Sean Ryan's podcast. Shout out to Sean Ryan. Go check it out. He has some great stories on there. He's like, a lot of people are going to hear this, and I want you guys to know you're complicit in this. If you are giving money to this company, you are complicit. That's why I wanted to show you guys the new owner, because when my wife makes the point that when the original owner was there, it wasn't always like that. Well, that makes sense because I remember Roblox being very popular and there being no complaints like this. Sean Ryan just said he's been telling people within the last 6 months, since this guy's been telling him things about Roblox, and it probably has been going on a little longer than that. But she's saying that since the original owner has been gone, Roblox has been wicked. She's like, ever since that guy's been gone, they've been having problems, and that says something about the spirit of the new CEO that's running the company.
Wearing 764, shirts as.
Yeah, I want to tell you about that 764 Colt as well. It's dangerous. I'm going to let him finish here, and then we'll just talk about it. But realize that he's talking 75 million active users every single day. People, like parents, they think it's just a cartoon game, a cute little game where people walk around. But there's a billion chats going on every day, and some of those chats is exactly what these predators are doing to lure your child into a private server, even off Roblox, to extort them, to groom them for their own sick, twisted fantasies. Again, I hope you're paying attention.
Characters, they got upside down crosses, they got satanic symbols, they have people in the chat logs talking about grooming, they have all these things, but they're profiting directly off of this stuff.
They want this shit happening.
I guess.
They want this shit happening.
Hard to believe,
Otherwise, they wouldn't be sending cease and desist letters to people who are trying to save kids.
Well, not all the time. Sometimes they lure them straight in.
And he's showing them an example here of how they do it. I cut this little bit in there because that's what he's doing.
Game. Like in a children's game that should be blocking all of this.
But they're not. They're not blocking much of any of it, actually. And I do know that when this story broke, there was some money lost on Roblox account, but it wasn't enough. But they did. I got an article here. Roblox CEO called on to resign after sending cease and desist letters to these YouTube vigilantes, trying to get them blocked, YouTube accounts being taken down because of these people that are trying to call out these pedophiles, these people that are grooming our kids. And so I was going to let you know about that. Roblox chief executive is facing a wave of fury after his company sent a cease and desist letter to a YouTuber known for exposing alleged child predators on the online gaming platform. And it goes in and talks about, I think this might be Schlep right here. And this article here says, modern day terrorism, how the online extremist network 764 is threatening teens' lives. This is the one I'm talking about.
So I went into some depth earlier today about 764 and what kind of group they are. And they are a decentralized group. They are a group that, the FBI pays attention to. They are a group that they extort children. They are especially into younger children and teenagers. They kidnap them. They put them into sex trafficking. And what I thought was most interesting, the owner, Bradley, I can't remember his last name, Coppenhead or something like that, but I know his first name's Bradley. He's the owner of it, and 764 actually comes from, he's serving an 80-year prison sentence, and 764 comes from his zip code, the zip code that he's from, or the area code that he's from, the first 3 digits of it. Yeah, the area code. So I thought that all of that was pretty interesting. I mean, they're wearing T-shirts. They're on Roblox kind of sending out these messages. They have their own chat rooms. They have little party meetups and things like that. And I'm just like, dude, a whole network of this stuff, and people are still giving Roblox money. Like, you got to be kidding me. And this is why Sean Ryan says if you're putting money into this, you are being complicit.
About that I believe was probably behind the one that sextorted my former student. You can see them inside Roblox with 764 in their name. Also, by the way, this is Minecraft, TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat. But they'll do 764 in their name, on their shirts that they're wearing inside the game, upside down crosses, satanic imagery, all of that. You can look into this for yourself, but it's on there. Make sure you're paying attention to it because it's becoming a big deal. I mean, this article itself, I believe, is only like a few days old. People are finally awakening to it. If you see messages like join com or where the com girl's at or join for fun or dark roleplay games, this is in Roblox. Don't join it. I mean, just tell your kid to get off the game. Find a different game. I remember back in the day when I used to play Mario Brothers. I used to jump over blocks and squish little walking mushrooms and save the princess. But now you have these games that are like, it's social now. You're not just by yourself. So my advice, if your kid wants to play video games, do single player games. Don't let them be online. And if they are, make sure it's only with friends and people they know. Don't let them out there alone because 1 Peter 5:8 clearly tells us that your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion seeking someone to devour. Satan is out there after our kids. Isaiah 5:20 says, woe to those who call evil good and good evil. There are people out there that have evil intentions, but to them it's good. And they're taking advantage of our children right under our noses, right there on their iPad, right there on some cell phone. And we think it's a gaming thing. You know, we think it's all fun and games until something like this happens to your child. Man, I mean, I think I've said enough. I could tell you about how they had Charlie Kirk assassination games where people would watch him get assassinated over and over and over again. I mean, they can make games about whatever they want, and Roblox doesn't do anything. So I'm going to be making sure that I talk to my kids about this. I already have. No more Roblox. We're not going to be on this game. So you can train your kids in the way they should go according to righteousness, the way the Bible says. But parents, we're not sharing this to scare you, but because it is the reality of what's happening all around us, and we need to know so we can be informed and allow our...
Yeah, I don't think that they've been sharing it to scare people. Most people haven't even been listening to it. But like you said, it is a reality. And there are a lot of people that are still putting a lot of money into Roblox. And this is extremely dangerous. If children are being lured off of this onto something else where they're being extorted and they're being kidnapped, they're being sex trafficked, they're being hurt, like this needs to stop. So I'm really upset about the whole cease and desist letter. Like, I just think that's kind of crazy. I actually hope that they do replace that CEO because it's problematic for him to send out that type of letter after 6 arrests. The fact that there was no congratulations, they should be looking into the CEO because if anything, he's condoning it to some extent.
Our kids that safety that they deserved. Jesus says, woe to those who cause one of these little ones to sin, for it'd be better to have a millstone tied around your neck and thrown into the sea. He wouldn't say that unless there are people in this world that want to cause danger to just our kids. It's sick, it's twisted, it's dark, but Jesus is shining his light. And so let this light come through this camera into your heart and share it with your kids. Let them be protected and help us be on guard against these sick, twisted people that are coming after our kids. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Hope this enlightened you, gave you some insight into something maybe you didn't know. Let me know what you think. Like I said, hit that like button, and we'll see you next time. Truth be told.
Shout out to James. His channel's Truth Be Told. You guys go check it out when you get a chance. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and end this live stream. I appreciate all you guys that stuck around in the chat hanging out with me. I will be back in a couple hours for Thanksgiving Day live stream. Happy Thanksgiving now because it is past midnight. Somewhere it's past midnight. Somewhere it's Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody that's on the live stream. Shout out to you guys. It's been a great year this year on YouTube for me, and I have a lot of you guys that I owe that to. So just shout out to you guys for sticking around, watching, hanging out with me. We'll be back tomorrow for some Thanksgiving news. So I'm gonna try to keep it not so gory, right? Like, I'll do my best. Hopefully people don't wild out too much and they just stay in the house and eat some food, right? So shout out to you guys. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. I will talk to you next time. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. Love yourselves. Love one another. Be peaceful. Tell somebody about Jesus.